the name of Jesus, wake up! Wake up out of your sleep! Wake up! Wake up out of your sleep! The Lord told me to tell you, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up!
Oh my God, me and this mute button are about to have it out. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Critically Drinking. I'm starting just a little bit early to recap what we just listened to with Kauai Bree and Candid Ann. Thank you, everybody, for alerting me to the mute, because that is tragic. Tragic. It's tragic. Hello, Dury. Hello, OG Patrice. Dury, we got NA. Hello to all of you. Oh my goodness, man, what is up with y'all? Hopefully you guys are having a good afternoon. If you're on I think everybody here is in the United States, or at least in the Eastern through Pacific time zone. So I'm gonna say it's morning to afternoon for everybody here. But if somebody's on the other side, good evening. I do know there are a few Europeans that do like to pop in. Didn't I tell you to quit the mute button? I know, me and the mute button. If I could remove the mute button, I probably need the mute button. Every now and then I probably need it. Silence is golden. So salute to everybody. Thank y'all for coming through. Just listen to a great conversation with Candid Ann and Kauai Bree. I really enjoyed listening to that. Man, I'm going to tell you, anybody that didn't catch the clip, because Bree played the clip at the end, I think I'm just going to play it for you real quick since we have a few minutes. Because I think most people, I put a poll up. I was working the poll. And 75% of people said they would let their spouse's parent or grandparent stay with them. I think most people would be open to a grandparent or parent staying with you. It's the way this guy presented it. And I'm going to show you guys, anybody that didn't see the clip, the way this guy presented it, because I think most of us would have an issue if somebody brought stuff to us like this. So,
see this video.
Can't we get the audacity to tell me that my grandma can't stay here when we got 3 bedrooms?
Why are you recording me?
Because I want to show my family this. This is crazy.
Show your family?
Yeah, but you trying to make it seem like my grandma can't stay here, but we got a whole loft that she can stay in.
We already talked about this. Your grandmother is not staying here.
She is staying.
Not have enough room.
Take that stuff out the loft, all the extra boxes we got.
So I just wanted to show that because he walks in recording her so that he could show his family. I don't think too many people are gonna respond really well to that. I had to make sure I wasn't muted. The work in the poll. Hey, you gotta every now and then you gotta work the poll. So put up a poll in the chat. 75% of people said they would let their family stay. So I guess the question would be if your partner, if your spouse, if your husband or wife came to you recording you, and you've already had a conversation, they said we've already talked about this. If you've already said no, and they come to you recording you and tell you, listen, my grandma's coming. And I'm recording this so that I can send it to my family. I don't think too many of us will respond very well to that. And she didn't. But that was a good conversation. I really think, man, that guy was crazy. First of all, I wouldn't don't come in recording your spouse in bed. I mean, sitting there relaxing, minding their business. That's an ambush. I don't like ambushes. But yeah, that was a great conversation, man. Candid Ann and Bree together are so hilarious and insightful at the exact same time. So I was really enjoying the conversation that the two of them are having. Thank you, ladies, for having it over here and allowing me to, be backstage. That was quite an enjoyable experience. I think I want to do more of that. I think I just want to be bringing up comments and stuff. I think and bringing in videos. Oh, I think I could do that. I think that's something I could do. So what is up, Bree? And again, thank you. And yes, Bree said she hopes it's fake. Simma said Charleston White was talking about people that need to make realistic fake content. So I think a lot of this stuff is fake, but they do introduce real topics. I mean, because a lot of people do take on in-laws, grand in-laws, siblings, somebody else's kid. Somebody goes to jail, so they got to take a niece or nephew or grandson. There's a lot of extended family in a lot of communities. So deciding, how do you decide? How do you decide when to take someone into your home? How do you decide when you want to take somebody into your home? That's a tough conversation for people that might have different opinions or different wants and needs, are in different places of the conversation or the relationship dynamic. You know, maybe somebody's like, it's really strained right now. The other person's like, that's great. I think everything's great because I'm dumping everything on you, man. So it was a good conversation because they talked about all the different aspects of it. So I thought that was pretty good. So I know today, just to recap what we're going to be talking about. Let me make sure I have everything I need. Please sign in with Apple ID. Okay, I'm in the wrong thing. Give me a second. I am in the wrong thing. Oh, okay. I've got Google Chrome up. Oh, I'm on Google Chrome. So let's see if things move better today. I'm on Google Chrome. So I'll run with it. See if I have the same issue. YouTube have been tripping with the chat, going crazy. Yeah, YouTube's been funny lately, but let's see if I have a better time on Google Chrome. Let me see. Where's my message? My notes. All right, cool. There are a couple of different things that we're going to talk about today. I brought some other topics into the conversation. I'm probably going to be here I'm going to kind of be here like the way I would be on Twitch. Or I'm probably going to be here like for 4 hours or so and just go through a few different topics. So although I'm shifting my content a little bit. So I'm not going to be like super locked in on a specific thing. If conversations go a different way, I'm going to follow it. So even like yesterday, the thumbnail was about the Drop Dead Gorgeous, but we probably spent the least amount of time talking about that. So today's got the big bad Jesus on there. We're going to put some respect on Jesus' name today. So I do plan on focusing on that, but I have a couple things to lead into that. We'll talk about that. And then afterwards, depending on, the energy, I'll go into the therapy side. If not, I'll talk about the therapy stuff another day. Both of these topics came from a conversation with me, Bree, Yella, Conscious TV, and I want to say Mandrill. And we have me, Bree, Yella, and Mandrill, and Watts. Watts was there. All kind of had a disagreement about Christianity, spiritualism. Bree and Conscious were on the side of Christianity, but like a loose, spiritually based Christianity, no religiousness, no religiosity. We're removing that. So Bree identifies as a Christian, but not a churchian, which is great. So we were just trying to figure out where we all kind of stood and where our perspectives came from, where they aligned, where they differed. So I wanted to, because people in the last week, people have and I get it. I said so much that people have a definitive view of how I feel about Christians, Christianity, spirituality, because I was only sharing my disagreements with it. So today, what I intend to do is kind of share my agreements, the things I absolutely do agree with, because if I had my druthers, this actually probably would be a Christian nation. Like we would have like one religion and people would be kind of cultured into it. And Christianity is a perfectly fine one. And I'm going to kind of go through the reasons. So at some point, we are going to do some Bible reading. I know that's going to bore some of you. I'm not going to be attacking Christianity today. I'm going to be supporting it because I actually did get to the place where I changed my life based on Christianity and Christian principles, biblical principles. So I think it's great. But a lot of the people who claim it, they leave a bad taste in our mouths. So I'm going to talk about a few things, but I wanted to talk to you all. I have a question. First off, let me see if I am. Give me a second. Let me see if I am coming through. No momento. Cool. All right, we got Quantum in the building. Hello. Hope all is well. Okay, so I'm going to keep that up so I can see the chat. Cool. All right. Damn. All right, got that up. The first thing I want to ask you guys, and I'm going to need some feedback. I'm going to need some feedback today. I know, I see I'm gonna need some feedback. I know Bree's on her way out. There's only a few of y'all. I know a lot of y'all are working. I know a lot of you are working, but I am gonna need some feedback at some point in this. I was having a conversation with my nephew, and he was talking about how people ask for birthday donations specifically. Somebody, it was their birthday, and they were like, "Hey, man, if you can give me money, blah, 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 blah. Send my Venmo, Cash App, stuff like that." What is everybody's opinion here on people who ask for their own gifts, like approach you for receiving gifts? They approach you for you to give them gifts, approach you for you to give them money for their birthday, or approach you because they're throwing their own party. How do y'all feel about that? And does the type of relationship matter as to how you feel about it? Like, it's okay if it's like if somebody I'm closer to, but not co-workers. Or I was curious about that because we both were like, I don't know about that. Yeah, especially unsolicited. Nah, that's not cool to me. Yeah, I know it's happened on the channel too. It's kind of interesting to me, but it lands away. I'm used to, like, if you let somebody know if your birthday, and I think the quality of the relationship will tell you how you respond to it. Hey, my birthday's coming up this Friday. Oh, snap. Hey, do you want to do anything? Or, oh man, well, I didn't know. I would have got you some. Like, I think the relationship will speak for itself in the response to you letting somebody know it was your birthday. Because the fact that they don't know means y'all probably ain't that tight. But maybe it's somebody that's super forgetful or doesn't keep track of stuff like that. I know my nephew's bad at that. So I was just curious because I was like, man, you know what? That's I've seen it happen. I had one birthday party that I threw for myself at 25, and I'll never do it again because I didn't know to keep my world separate. Yeah, it makes you, I don't know. Like, hey, OG Patrice, man, my birthday's Tuesday, and I really wanted to let you know what my Venmo, my Cash App, my PayPal was, because I was really hoping that you could bless me with something, this Tuesday, it'd be really great. I mean, you can give it to me sooner, but, if you could throw, I know you got a big OG Patrice. You've been out there on the stage. You was singing. I just saw you in Vegas. I saw the highlights. Why don't you, go ahead and bless, go ahead and bless your boy. Don Frank in the building. I have to clock back in, but for sure, catch the replay. Hey, thank you, Don. And listen, I'm putting 2 shows. You got the one from earlier. I get it. I know you can't catch everything on replay. I get it. We put a lot of content out here that we support. So I appreciate it. Even if you can't catch the replay, I appreciate you for stopping through and just sticking your head in. It's good to see you. And I hope your work day is going well. And, my birthday's coming up in August, Don Frank. So, why don't you go ahead? I'm just joking. Oh, is that how you get gifts? Well, my birthday is today, tomorrow, Thursday, every day. Exactly. Me and my nephew, we were having a good laugh. I think it's his barber. It's his barber. But they, like, communicate, like, time-wise through the text. And I saw that. He sent me the screenshot. I was like, dude, if my barber sent me a thing talking about what you can get me for my birthday, I'd be like, now that's true too. That's true too, Quantum. And that's the other side of the coin. That is the other side of the coin, because a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So this is really kind of more about etiquette. And I'm just more used to, like, you let somebody know it's your birthday, and then their relationship to you or how they move dictates what they give you, if they give you anything. That's my etiquette style. But I mean, some people are like, hey, I gotta go the whole way. I gotta tell you what to give me. Give me $50, brother Alonzo Hall. You the all-star advisor. It's my birthday coming up. Why don't you throw 50 in my I mean, what's up, Alonzo Hall? I'm just playing. I was having a conversation before you walked in. I was being silly from that conversation. I'm not asking you for $50 in my Cash App. But Alonzo Hall, the all-star advisor, good to see you. Hope everything is well. Good to see you. I was asking everybody how they felt about people who tell you it's their birthday and ask you for the gifts and donations at the same time. If you're hungry, say you need food. Don't try and get money out of me another way. Ooh, you calling them hungry. Ooh, that's messed up. But I'm going to ask another question behind that. Because me and my nephew, we were both, like, I could never ask for birthday money. Now, I get people do. Again, that's them. I'm saying me and him don't do it. I had the thought. I was like, I would rather contemplate homelessness than ask people for birthday money specifically. Like, hey man, can you hit my Cash App? Can you hit my Venmo? It would make me feel away. And I was like, it's my pride. I had an extreme reaction to it because of pride. My pride is a certain way. But I wanted to ask you all, what is something that you all are extremely prideful about? Something that you would never allow yourself to do based on pride. Like, I would never get caught like what is that thing? Like, oh, I would never. What is that thing? Oh, okay. I was confused at first. I know. I figured. I was like, I better speak to that. Because you probably just walked in and I'm asking for $50 in my Cash App. Yeah, that would yeah. I would have turned around and hit the door. If it was a streamer and they asked, as soon as I walked in, they asked me $50 to the Cash App for their birthday, I'd walk back out. I'd peace out so quick. Like, whoop. Not the room for me. Deuces. But yeah. Give me a second to respond to this message. Give me a second. Speaking of Cash Apps. Memento. Cool. All right. To request money on your birthday is weird, but it's okay to tell people you prefer cash. Now, I like that. I do. For people that you know are going to get you gifts, I'm cool with telling you the kind of stuff you like. Pride is haram in Islam, so I try not to show it. I get you. I think a lot of us don't have some pride somewhere. Like, man, I would never let people see me. Some people want me to cry. I won't let people see me cry. I want, like, what is the thing that you refuse to be vulnerable about? To ask for help, to be seen showing emotion or crying? What's something that you won't allow people to see you be vulnerable about? Because I have a hard time. Like, even when I was asking for, like, people that have been here for a while, for like a year, know how hard it was to get me to ask for money for the channel. Everybody knows how hard that was. It was so difficult for me. So difficult. And it's still a struggle. It's still a struggle. So I started making clips to do it so I didn't have to do it, to get around my pride or whatever it is, that sense of vulnerability, whatever that is, it's really difficult. Oh, it is Pride Month. Oh my gosh, it is Pride Month. Yeah, good call on that one. I'm gonna let that go. But I get it. It looks like the chat they're very prideful about answering questions about where their pride lies. You won't be vulnerable enough to let me know where your vulnerabilities lie. And I get that. I understand. Because, I wouldn't ask you. It's really difficult for me to ask you for money. It's difficult for you to share what you're prideful about. I get it. So we will move on to what I had to ask you about, because Bree, yesterday or the other day, brought up something. We were talking about the BBLs a little bit for Drop Dead Gorgeous. Drop Dead Gorgeous. I didn't download it. Give me a second. I'll never let people know what I really think or feel about anything. See. People. My pride won't let me talk about my pride. Yeah, that's how it goes, OG. That's how it goes. Let me download this video. Take a second. I forgot I left it in Streamable. Streamable is one of the apps that, thankfully, your generous donations does allow me to pay for the, what do you call that? The subscription for, because it allows me to get these clips pretty quickly. YouTube and stuff, because I know StreamYard was tripping, but Streamable makes having clips so much easier. It's the pride for me. As long as you pray before engaging, it is halal. I mean, if you say so. But the other day, Bree mentioned BBLs for men. And we are going to talk about that really quickly before we get into the subject. I thought that was interesting because, yes, men are out here augmenting their body too. And when I got to a place of settledness and I was watching some YouTube videos, Ab and Preach were talking about it. So I was like, maybe we need to find out what these guys are out here doing, because we keep talking about the hypergamy and guys need to be the 666. Man. So these guys are out here getting their bones lengthened. So we got the Brazilian bone lengthening, the BBLs for men. My pride used to come in when I wanted to ask questions in class. Okay. Well, listen, I want y'all to hear about the HBLs because these HBLs, man, they seem crazy. So we're going to listen to that really quickly for a couple of minutes before we get into the topic, because, man, I saw this and I was like, wow, dudes are really out here going crazy. The same way we got to talk about these women, because, I mean, if you're willing to die to look beautiful, these guys are going through extreme lengths, no pun intended, for a few more inches. I know. Don't say it. Don't say it.
A young man flies to Russia to pay doctors to shatter his shin bones. He does this so he can become 3 inches taller. This is leg lengthening surgery, and it's excruciatingly painful. The procedure takes 9 months. 4 months for lengthening and 5 months for recovering. Lengthening means the shin bones are broken. Then the fractured bone pieces are pulled apart by 1/4 millimeter at a time, 4 times a day.
Cover your eyes if you're one of those people.
The body then tries to heal and make new bone to fill in the gaps. This is how the patient becomes taller. While recovering, a patient in Russia witnessed his legs swell and almost double in size. Patients often walk with a walker. In Russia, the cost of the procedure is around $16,000. In the United States, it is much more. In Russia, patients are likely to first be psychologically evaluated to make sure they can mentally handle the pain. Post-surgery, serious infection in the bone can occur, yet it is rare. Other risks include loss of feeling in the lower leg, as well as nerve damage and chronic pain after surgery. But still, for many, it makes a hugely positive difference. In India, where height is considered very attractive, both men and women have opted to get the procedure. An American woman with dwarfism had 3 limb lengthening surgeries. She did this to gain a foot in height. Her original height was 3'10", and now her height is 4'11". One of the reasons she got the procedure was to solve hip and knee pain from having bowed legs. Thanks to the surgery, she is free of those pains. She is also happy to no longer have her height define her. One patient who had the surgery successfully done in the US said the surgery itself didn't make him happy. But what did make him happy was no longer having to endure jokes about short stature that permeate our culture.
So I thought that was interesting. One video I checked out, they talked about $100,000 was around the price for it here in the U.S. They showed some black guys getting it. He went from like 5'5" to 6'1" or something like that. Mr. He said in the building, peace. Yeah. So guys are out here getting those HBLs because they're augmenting their bodies too. I mean, girls is players too. These guys is back playing again too. Everybody's getting these HBLs. India, they said the men and the women both value height. So everybody's getting these Brazilian bone lengthenings. So yeah, amazing. Where's it at?
Amazing.
Yeah, Dory was snitching. She went to Turkey for a nose job. He's snitching. Ain't even dry snitching. That was so wet. These surgeries look real awkward if you push it beyond 6 inches because your arms and stuff don't proportionally grow. Absolutely. That's something I was noticing too. So I've been preaching some things, and I looked at a couple of studies. It takes about 2 years for you to regain your mobility. And it's the study I was looking at, there were 2 different tests they did, and they had acronyms. I guess like some kind of kinesthesiology test, and then someone, I don't know what the other one was again. But they had 2 tests, and it took 2 years to regain your mobility after such surgery. After a year, you probably only had 75% of your mobility. So many different types of complications. I've been said that you can run ever again because of the bone lengthening, but I couldn't find that in the studies. I could not find that in the studies, but there were a lot of people that had some very bad complications, including, re-breakage, nerve issues. it was very interesting to read how intricate these surgeries were. And I'm like, man, these guys are really in the United States trying to lengthen their legs so they can hit that 6 foot mark to be more attractive to women. And all of them say once they were taller, it was their dating prospects did pick up. It's such a weird indicator for attractiveness, but I get it. There's a lot of what is that called? Evolutionary psychology that may play into that. And it might just be sociology too. It might just be we're socialized to look for that. We repeat it so much. She told me not to tell anyone too, but she came back with a swollen face that people didn't know. Dury, she was my 3rd subscriber, so she's watching this. Like, you're in trouble. Like, she's gonna at the next family reunion, y'all gonna get into it. Nobody respects the temple God created. Somebody tell them he makes no mistakes. I like it. Even after 2 years, you can't really run or anything like this too. And it's more common to have chronic issues related to mobility. Everything I looked into, man, it looked all bad. It looked all bad. Just to have those extra few inches, I'm like, ugh. I mean, just to have that appeal, and I get it. The pressure that these women are feeling to augment their bodies, to change everything about the way they look. Men are starting, I've seen the pectoral implants. I've seen guys get the chiseled jawline. I've seen people doing all kinds of things to their bodies. So it's really interesting to see. Because Bree was saying, hey, listen, these guys are out here getting these BBLs too. So, these HBLs, we're getting these HBLs. I just wanted to bring that up because, everybody's talking about Jackie O, but these guys are out here checking out their quality of life. They're shortening their quality of life. It may not lengthen or shorten their life, but they are changing the quality of life. I mean, because 2 years out of your life to be immobile, like to be less mobile, I don't know. That's a lot. Let me see. Does anyone else feel these surgeons are participating in predatory behavior? Glad you said that. There was another point I meant to bring up. Because my God, there has to be some sense of morality to kick in and tell someone, no, I'm not doing this surgery. Here, at least in the United States that I read, they actually do psychological evals before they do the surgery. So at least what I read, in the legitimate spaces, they actually have people take psychological evals before they do the surgery. So that was an important point that I forgot to bring up, and I forgot to put it in my notes. But thank you for saying what you said, because that is important. Dr. Miami getting that work. Man, people who are in this cosmetic lane, they making a bag. Some say they turn people away. They should be. People who have an unhealthy desire, and I don't know how they assess that. I'd love to know. Let's be honest. If penis enlargement was a thing, men would be lining up around the corner and saving for absolutely. Not even a question. I get why everybody wants to be more attractive. Everybody wants to have more opportunity. Whatever it is that you enjoy, everybody wants more opportunity. So I don't begrudge anybody wanting more opportunity. I just do find the lengths that we go to sometimes are a little bit more extreme than others. Some enhancement versus complete alteration. Like there's certain, I don't know. I just think it's something that we need to contemplate more and maybe even speak to our children more about, because I think that pressure is changing us. No pun intended. Is changing us in a way that we feel like all of our problems are buyable. We can buy the solution to it. But a lot of the actual problems are internal. All I see is a repeat customer, sometimes for life. Facts. I think it's less likely they will turn away those who are influencers and have money. That's true too. Because even the doctors and medical practitioners have some level of their own desires, and they may want their practice to be more prominent. So the right influencer, even if you overlook some warning signs, but they get 1 million followers, trying to sign up to come to you. Oh man, look what Dr. No's job did. Man, look, man, you can barely even tell. Get them hooked. Better than drug dealing, or the same, exactly the same. Yeah, because what we're doing, we're treating the chemicals inside of our body. We're not trying to alter the chemicals from like bring chemicals in. The chemicals that release when we feel good, like, man, I look at myself and I'm satisfied, or I feel like it's still chemical dependency. We want to feel good, But there's the internal, the hormonal type drugs. You know, like was it serotonin and was it oxy something? Is oxy? It's not oxytocin, or is it oxytocin? I don't know. It's one of those. It's something. But there's some feel good. Dopamine is one. So there's several different things. But we're still treating chemical dependency issues because we think maybe if I can get the guy, we can get the girl. I can get that dopaminergic thing, or there's another one, the bonding. You know, a lot of us might be seeking that bonding thing. If I can get a guy, if I can get a girl, I can get that bonding. I can't remember what it is. I would love to go from my 3 to 6. I'm gonna. I can't stand you. I can't stand you. Psych evaluations can be tricky. I need to see exactly. I need to see it because if it's questionnaire that says strongly agree or strongly disagree, that can sometimes be counted as a psych. Yeah, I get you. That's why I said the test. I don't know. I'd like to see what they test for too. Oxytocin and dopamine. Okay. Yeah, Dury, wow. Dury is wild. He said go from my 3 to my 6. I love to go from 3 to 6. Dury, oh my gosh, you remind me. I shared something in Discord. Bro, should I find that? As a pharmacist, I was the biggest drug dealer in my city. I'm gonna show y'all something. I probably shouldn't. I probably should leave it alone, but I can't help myself. Let me find old boy. This is on Twitter. This was on Twitter. Let me find it. There we go. Oh my gosh. Yes. Let me share this. Let me see. No, I don't need to log in. And speaking of when he talked about going from 3 to 6, it reminded me of something. It's not about going 3 to 6, but I just need somebody else to see this. I need to put this in somebody else's eyeballs, pause, than other than mine. Nobody put more dope on the street than me. Yeah, that's true. Same thing in the United States. The pharmacists are flooding the streets with chemicals, compounds. Get closer to the source. Yeah, I couldn't live with it anymore. The guilt. I'm changing my last name to Bryant. Yeah, we got the Bryant brothers already. We got Von Bryant, Greg Bryant, and we can have a Dury Bryant. We need some more Bryants. Everybody become a Bryant. Let me share the screen so I can ruin y'all's day. Oh no. Here we go. Share system audio. I forgot I was in 2 different browsers. Man, I don't know why I take pleasure in this, but I do. Schadenfreude. Pharmakia. Sorcery is a form of the Greek root from which we get our English word. Okay. Quantum with the etymology. Happy birthday to everybody here.
But I met a girl who's a streamer. I went up to her, I hugged her, and I came in my pants. Wow. Hugging her.
I think you need to get laid a little more often.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was just saying. Was she hot though? Was she like super duper duper hot?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's forgivable if she was super duper duper hot.
Yeah. But I met.
Yeah, that was. Some weirdos out here, yo. Weirdos. That's what's in the world. So, ladies, quit hugging these guys. Don't hug these guys. Insecurity epidemic is concerning. Right. No hugs. No high fives. No daps. I don't know. And like everybody said earlier, there's always a possibility that is completely just made up for clout. Clout is a heck of a drug. Speaking of chemicals, clout is a heck of a drug. Clout and attention, heck of a drug. Ironic coming from a streamer. I get it. I know. Tugs are greater than hugs. I know. Happy birthday to all of you. I know that was the gift that you were not expecting. I don't want no hugs. Hugs from a guy trying to get his nut off me. I'm sorry. That's disgusting. And he just said it to put it on the internet. Yeah, clout. But hard pivot. Hard pivot. I'm going to share this other screen because I want to show you guys something else I saw that was interesting to lead into the Bible topic. Because out in Utah, here in the United States, anybody's not here from the United States, I know Sterling's out, but he's from, and Drury's not in the United States either, but, bam. The Bible is banned in some Utah elementary schools because of vulgarity and violence. Man. Now, I know I keep hearing Christianity's under attack. Christians are being persecuted. I find it strange, but I know Utah has a lot of Mormons. There is no MD or PharmD without a body count. That's true. But I thought this was interesting. In Utah, now it's being appealed. It's already being appealed. But they are banning the Bible for violence, citing passages describing sex and violence. And there's a lot of sex and violence in the Bible. But we've accepted it for, religious and historic reasons. But I understand the challenge. But I thought that was just interesting. 7 or 8 elementaries and middle schools are going to be removing them as the school year wraps up. It was challenged in December. And the person that sent the request for review said it was one of the most sex-ridden books around. Incest, onanism, bestiality, prostitution, genital mutilation, fellatio, dildos, rape, and even infanticide, the parent wrote in their request. So that was kind of interesting. Based on the new code, they have a Texas law code that says anything indecent that includes explicit sexual arousal, stimulation, masturbation, intercourse, sodomy, or fondling is off limits. Material doesn't have to be taken as a whole in those situations or left on the shelf during a review. If there is a scene involving any of those acts, it should be immediately removed. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. There is a lot of stuff going on. There are a lot of religious battles being waged based upon what people believe and what they don't. Especially they have this very high ideal of protecting the kids from a lot of different things. We need to start getting teardrop tattoos. It started a lot of wars too. I like to live in a secular society, so I'm all for it. But the Bible is the instructions before leaving Earth. How else will we be instructed? Well, Utah, they believe that their school curriculum is a better set of instructions. That's just what they believe. Label it a fantasy novel or historical document and keep it pushing. I mean, that's fair. So I thought that was interesting. I'll remove that. I know, Inception. Christianity isn't under attack. This is the law they passed to ban LGBT books, and it backfired. It's a thing, man. It's a thing. And so we're having like a culture war in the United States, a little battle between, different identitarian groupings. And I get that. It's going to be going on for a minute. I don't know when it'll settle down. I believe that a lot of things are economically driven, even though we don't connect those dots. As long as people are under like scarcity, if they feel pressed on their money, and most people are having financial issues, even if they're not broke, they just have like the money's pressing on a lot of people. I say the 70 to 75%. I think it's like what they say, 60% of households can't afford a $400 emergency or something like that. And even like so many 100,000, like 6-figure people are check to check. So, I mean, with the dollar not stretching like that, people are going to be anxious. And like we talked about yesterday, people are going to offload their anxiety to other things. They're going to attribute it to other things. So even though it might be economic anxiety, they're going to see it like, man, these kids' recreational activities cost too much. They need to do less. They're doing too much. You know what I'm saying? So we'll instead of saying like the economical system is broken so that this money doesn't go as far as it is, we'll blame the things that cost us money. So we do some weird stuff. Both sides of the political aisle are trying to remove checks and balances for their own sake, but all we're doing is ripping up the rules of the game. Pure chaos. Backfires all around. Agreed. Lifetime custody, either church or the hospital. You're going to bow down to one of them in the USA. Facts. The dawning of a new era. Turbulence. Okay. It will settle down after Trump disappears. Because it's trying to own my ops mentality is derived from him instead of actually fixing issues. I don't know. I can't blame it on Trump. I've seen a lot of stupid stuff way before him and outside of him. I don't think it's just Trump, but we'll see, man. One thing I know for sure is everything always changes. And on topic, I learned that from the Bible. I learned to not get too unsettled, because one thing that's for certain is that everything's going to change. Can't say it's going to be better or worse, but I know it's not going to be this forever, because everything is constantly in a state of flux, but the themes remain the same. The same themes are going to occur throughout time. Greed, pain, suffering, that stuff's just going to be here. That's a condition of living on this earth. You have to manage in spite of. So it's going to take a new face. There's always going to be another Herod, another Nebuchadnezzar, another Pharaoh. There's always going to be another force that's opposition to wherever you stand. There's always going to be something trying to take you out. So that's something I'll actually learn from the Bible to today's topic, to learn to be able to accept things as conditions of where you live, who you are, where you're from. Some things just have to be, you have to settle yourself in that. But to get to the topic itself, we are going to, I forgot to bring in that clip. I got the wrong thing here. I think this is the wrong thing. What is this? I already played that. Give me a second. Be still and know. Apex, to be honest, I think Trump is like gasoline, but the fire is still there. He's the conduit for a huge percentage of the population's beliefs, and they're not going anywhere for now. And the other side is often trying to counter it with similarly aggressive policy. But it'd be helpful to have less inflammatory leaders, period. I wish I had that sound from Themis. Period. We need a social media purge. Nobody can have access to it for one weekend. Man, there needs to probably be like a monthly unwinding. Like monthly, like for a full week, like we can have internet for 3 weeks, like, and a week off. Like there's got to be some kind of no, you don't. No, it's not you. It's not you. I said I wish I had the soundbite from Themis. He's another streamer, but because of the way he speaks, he's got this funny like period when he's being emphatic. Period. It's just so funny. It's just so funny to me. But the small little 1 minute clip. I got this little 1 minute clip from Real Talk with Yanni. Shout out to Real Talk with Yanni. And I didn't download that either. Man, I'm failing. Failing in life, guys. Failing. But it's a 50-second clip. It should only take a second to download. Did I what? What happened? What did I do with it? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, listen. Got a bit of a problem here. Period. Got a bit of a problem. Where is the Good afternoon, Red Lipstick Vibes. Currently having another little issue. What did I do with it? Did I delete it? Oh my God, please have it recently deleted videos or something. Oh my God. Ugh, this is terrible. I don't know what I did with it. Okay. So anyway, there was a segment of this conversation that Real Talk with Yanni was having with this clinician. She credited herself as a clinician. And they were actually talking about Danae Jackson at the time. But she was talking about, she's live now too. Let me see. Let me go to her channel, see if I can find it. It was at the end of her stream. Wasn't that long ago either. Let me see. It was within the last week. Come on, Rashawn. Wasn't Decentralizing Men. Wasn't that one. Let me see. Go live. Apologize for not having this ready, but I promise you, I had it. I don't know what I did with it, though. I think it was her. found about where we're at. So give me a second. You saw that one, Red? Yeah. Nova rain. It could be true because I'm on the East Coast and the behavior is quite shocking to see. Sounds like the bucket overflow from slow poison drip. We're gonna have to research more of it. Appreciate y'all for being patient. I found about the part. I'm not at the exact part. But nope, there we go. Bam.
Business in the house.
It's coming up.
So now that it's
hey
public
Billy
in her,
hello.
Image of this perfect marriage is broken. That created a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, which is very similar to the guilt and the shame that she experienced after her traumatic event.
It's getting ready to come out.
That makes sense too. Okay.
Right.
Hopefully
so
I don't go back too far.
Everything is all, I believe anyway, that everything is all connected. Right. So people are hard, and diagnosis is really hard. That's part of the reason why I decided to be a neuropsychologist. A lot of people get it wrong, right? Because you have to be able to weed through the crap. You have to be able to see through the crap. So when you take off all of this, what I call Jesus talk, right? If you just look at it as this is her defense mechanism, it's just not good anymore. It's not working out anymore, right? So I think now she's trying to flip it, and instead of appearing hurt, right? Because we would be dealing with this behind doors. Nobody would know. But everybody's looking at her now. So I'm sure a part of her upbringing, again, like I said before, was, you have to present a certain way. You have to look a certain way. Back. So there's nothing else for her to do except try to make herself look as if she's won. Right, but she hasn't won anything, which is what we're seeing. Right.
I wish I knew exactly where I was at.
This is just
but it was in this
what
conversation.
She feels like she needs to do to protect herself because she's not dealing with the thing. Right. She's trying to put a Band-Aid on it.
Lindsay, because people are, I know they're gonna try to come at me because they feel like I'm coming at religious people or like Christian people. Hopefully but I'm really not, because I'm taking a bird's eye view of what I'm seeing and not a religious view of what I'm seeing. So how can she heal her relationship with religion while still keeping her religion? Are you kind of able to answer that? Like what would the process look like
Black
for
TV
her
in the
to
building
create
a little,
a healthier relationship with her religion, not a coping, a defensive mechanism?
I think that it's not impossible, but it's going to be difficult. I think that she's going to have to admit, and trust me, I get it. I was raised Catholic. So I think she's going to have to admit that religion is flawed.
Okay, yeah, this is where I had the clip starting. So I wanted to differentiate because I know I went in on Christianity before. Yeah, I get it. But there's a difference between, like Yanni was asking, there's the religion as a faith-based practice, but then there's also religion as like a defense mechanism. And those are two different mindsets to enter into a conversation or relationship with. Salute to the chat and my YouTube bro, my Rashawn. Catch you. Hey, appreciate you, New Growth. Appreciate you so much. Definitely. Thank you for coming through. And I'll definitely be reaching out to you. I want to try to do something next week. Find out what your time and availability is. So definitely try to get something done. I'm in full support of live tranquilizers. Not need to kill. I'm just going to put you to sleep and then wake up holding cell. Okay. Take my cell phone. Babe, I'm going to break it down, the whole church thing. And it's important, Red Lipstick. I promise you. It's so important because people use religion for different reasons. Like yesterday, we were talking about what is the win condition of a relationship. And it's, some people like marriages to go all the way. And some people marriage is more about, I want to have a family. Some people marriages, I want to have somebody to go through life with. Some people get married because I want somebody to have sex with. Some people get married because I want somebody to take care of me when I get old and sick. Same thing with religion. People come to religion to solve a bunch of different problems in their lives. And then there are people who actually come to religion not to solve a problem, but to be a part of a community. Some people come to it because they really feel a spiritual sense of connection to a higher power. So there are all sorts of reasons that you can come to. And some people come to it from a deficit, so it creates differences between people. Funny, only the Christians disagree. Yeah, I'm going to go in. A lot of church folks is not going to like me at this. Petty Red. Petty Red is in the building. Petty Red. It's okay. They probably don't like the people in their church either. Man, that's true. Yeah, excited about a collaboration with you and New Growth. Oh, so fact. I appreciate that. I like that. I like New Growth. I like the way he presents his ideas. So definitely want to do something. I'm trying to, do some different stuff. And work in some different folks. So let's get to some some content. I don't want to do certain things all the time. I really don't.
And
the religion is flawed. Religion is flawed. That was the point. That's where I wanted to start the clip at. It's about 50 seconds from this point on. The religion being flawed and identity. So I'm gonna let this play for about the next 50 seconds when Yanni starts saying, wow, 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 wow. I love that part. Like she was just so blown away. It was funny.
And I think for people who are very extreme, like her, that's not an easy thing to admit, right? A lot of people who are extremists, as you would say, they put, pastors and preachers or whoever on a pedestal, right? And they're idealized and they're, they're idols, right? So, and to admit that your religion has some kind of flaw might not, it doesn't necessarily have to, but it might cause another, disturbance in her identity, because it seems that religion is very much a part of who she
her
is.
identity. Yep.
Yeah. And all that says to me is that, again, because this is a secondary effect of trauma, right? She doesn't know who she is. So if she admits that religion is flawed, then she'd also have to admit that she doesn't know who she is.
Wow.
That part was just so funny for me. And I'm bringing this in for a specific reason. And Godless Sewing, hello. I'm sorry. Did I say Godless? Yeah, Godless Sewing, hello. Good to see you. The reason I was bringing that in was because I wanted to differentiate where my actual issue is at. My actual issue isn't with Christianity. My actual issue is with the people who use Christianity to supplant their identity. Instead of me being a human being, I'm going to be a church person. So that becomes their identity. And they don't really embrace any of the humanity that is taught in the Gospels. That's where I end up getting a friction. And so many people don't have an identity of their own, so they become a church identity. They become a church goer. I used to call it jokingly pewish. Like they're pewish people. They sit on a pew, they do all of the functions of church, and that's where their kind of faith rests in, doing the functions. So that's kind of problematic to me. And there's a lot more of those people than people who have determined for themselves who they are as a person, and then bringing that person to Christ and letting Christ transform that humanity, letting Christ fulfill the humanity within them to love other people. That's what I very rarely see. I don't have any problem with that path. My problem is I'm messed up. I'm going to hide my messed upness behind Jesus. Jesus makes me perfect, and now I get to look down on you. That's the road a lot of people take. And I have a problem with those people. So whenever anybody that's heard me saying, I know because anybody that was listening might have heard Mr. Best say that I attack Christians. I attack people that take on the label Christianity but take that path. I'm going to hide my flaws behind the veneer of Jesus and look down on people. I'm going to attack those people, and yes, they do identify as Christians. But I don't have a problem with people who say I'm a Christian and I mind my business, or I'm a Christian and I love everybody because that's what God required of me. I don't have a problem with true people who adopt the principles and stances of the person who called himself Jesus from the Bible, Holy Bible. I'm cool with that. No problems there. My issue is, why do us Black Americans still use religion wrong? Whether atheist, Hebrew, Israelite, Islam, or Christianity, we are still functioning at a highly combative, dysfunction environment. Yes. And I think with your last sentence answers the question. We are in a highly combative, dysfunctional environment. So because you're in a highly combative, dysfunctional environment, like to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if you're in a highly combative, dysfunctional environment, your faith is going to be highly combative and dysfunctional, and it's going to create more of this environment. It's just going to have the face of Jesus on it. It's going to have holy water to throw at people. It's going to have a cross that you try to cut people's necks with. You're going to be highly combative, but you're going to use the props of the religion that you jumped into. That is very interesting. So it can possibly break someone to admit that their religion is flawed. Yes. Okay. I have a sister who I really believe was hurt by religion. I wish I could have talked her out of religion. There is a thing that certain religions can teach you that everybody cannot take, because in your real life is going to teach you some things. Sometimes your real life is going to teach you to be ashamed of who you are, even if they're not things that you should be ashamed of. You might be ashamed of the way you look. You might be ashamed of your family. There's a million things that you might be ashamed of that have nothing to do with, like, the bone lengthening. I'm ashamed of my height, so I'm trying to change it. The BBLs, I'm ashamed of my shape, so I'm trying to change it. But they're perfectly normal, natural things. They're natural to you. That's the way you're shaped. So then religion will come along and add more shame. There are things that are wrong with me. There is a breaking point to every idea. There's a breaking point to everything. And there's a breaking point to shaming yourself. All that internally directed anger, sadness, it can break a person. So religion put on the wrong person who's maybe already prone to shame, it can break them. Push them to death. It can push them to death. So religion's a tool. And you put the tool in the wrong person's hands, it becomes a weapon. And sometimes those weapons turn against yourself. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. Let me see. Tempting. Heck yeah, they're the worst. Saturday Center, Sunday Saints. Yeah, I've seen that. We got Harris Tribe Media Group. Hello, hello. Haha, flirting in the chat. That's why it's so beautiful to see. Highly combative brand of Jesus. Yes. I love my God, Jesus, and pray I represent him well through my actions and words. When I don't, y'all don't plan God, Jesus. I've gone rogue for a minute. Don't blame him. I won't blame him. Jesus want that smoke. You do. If you saw the Jesus on the thumbnail, he can answer. He can handle it. Yo, chat. Imagine when we go to the pearly gates and we mention the Bible and what we did and how good we were. And God says, why do people keep telling me your life story when you come up here? Right. Now, that's another thing I learned from the Bible. Because if you're doing it, because Jesus specifically spoke to that. If you're doing this thing to tell everybody how good you're being, you're not doing it for the right reasons. And God is judging your heart. So even if the person you're trying to impress, with your works is God, you're out of alignment. You're trying to do the works to glorify God, not yourself. Glorify God, not yourself. Everything you do should be to glorify him. If you're doing it to glorify you, even to him, it's problematic. You've gone out of alignment. According to what I read from Jesus, my understanding of what Jesus was saying. If he say, what book? I'm going to fall out. Yeah, you just answered my next question? Okay, cool. Mr. He said, facts. I can see it. I never said that, but you're in Bunker 504. Y'all dirty. Yeah, so my understanding of what Jesus asked for, like even when he was a kid, they said that I'm about my Father's business. I'm about my Father's business. I'm trying to do what he wants me to do. The problem with, I think it was the Pharisees and the Sadducees, was they were trying to show that they lived by the rules so rigidly so that everybody could see how good they were at following the rules. Look, I'm a perfect example. I've done everything wonderfully. Look at me. Listen to my magnificent prayer. And that's why the Bible talked about vain repetition. Look how amazing I am at being a Christian. You're in the wrong line. You're doing it the wrong way. That's not what Jesus wanted. So if you're following Jesus and not doing what Jesus wanted, which he said, keep my commandments, keep God's commandments. If you're not doing what he said to do, and you're not doing anything. That's why I have a problem with those Christians, because if you're not doing what God said to do, if you're not doing what Jesus said to do, but still calling yourself a Christian, yeah, I have a problem with that. That's weird. That's weird. It's strange. He was a straight rebel. He was trying to oppose the current system. And that's great. That's cool. There were rules. They were oppressive. He was like, let me teach you how to get around these rules, because what's going on outside of yourself is beyond your control, but you can control what goes on in here. It's not what comes in, but what comes out of the mouth that defiles you, because what comes out of your mouth is from your heart and your mind. So if there's corruption coming out of you, that's more of a problem than you eating pork, or you eating this, or you eating that. He was trying to talk about transforming who you were as a person, which is when I read it for myself. And it took me to read the Bible for myself to get this. I spent years in church calling myself a Christian. Oh my God. I spent years, over a decade. I want to say I'll say when I was a kid, when I got walked up in the church and baptized a few times and all kinds of weird experiences that all the church hurt, all the weird stuff. All the people saying you're not a Christian because you didn't do this. You didn't speak in tongues. You didn't da-da-da. All of that good stuff. All of a sudden, I was at a Bible school lesson in my 30s. And I thought I'd been a Christian this entire time. I quit being a Christian because I never heard the voices. I never had the feelings. I never fell out when, my forehead got mushed. I never fell backwards. None of the stuff worked for me. But then, finally, after I had given up, I was in Sunday school because I still went to church. Whatever reason, I just felt like I needed to go to church. And there was times where I had to go to church. Like I just made some agreements with people. I'm going to church for this reason. I heard this Bible lesson about this dude and this talking donkey. Sound dumb. Sounds so stupid. I'm like, a talking donkey, Balaam. There's a story about this guy who's walking and his donkey just stops. He starts trying to beat the donkey and, get the donkey to go. The donkey won't go. After about 3 times, the donkey turns around and says something to him. And I'm like, this is in the Bible? Like, oh, the Bible's goofy. When I heard that story, it completely made me, I have to read the Bible for myself, because if there's a talking donkey in the Bible, like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, this is crazy talk. So I started reading for myself. Once I read the Bible for myself, 2 things happened. One, I realized I can never follow that faith. I just can't. But the second thing was that nobody in church, out of all the years, out of all the churches I've been to, had never properly prepared me or taught me what it meant to be a Christian, what Christ actually asked for. Which is why this stuff is important, because a lot of people are sitting in the same churches that I went to. And there are a lot of what we call platitudes, a lot of cliches, a lot of things that we can recite and say over and over again that don't have any meaning anymore, because we've said it so long that it just comes off our lips, just falls off our lips. But it doesn't have any meaning in our hearts anymore. It's like when you hear your favorite song, you're like, but then when that song goes off, it's done. That's what a lot of stuff in church is like. You groove to it for a quick second, and then it's over. Like that Frankie Beverly, da, 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 whoa, whoa. That's one of the call and response from church. Like, God is good all the time. And all the time, God is good. Hey! And then you shuffle off. And then that's it. I mean, it feels good for a hot second. And then people move on. What I realized, though, that they were supposed to be transformative. They were supposed to be transformative experiences. Nobody really told me about that. Some of the stuff didn't make any sense. Like, I bet most of you have not heard of transubstantiation. I'm not even going to get into that. It's from the Catholicism branch of Christianity, the Roman Catholic branch. When you take your communion, you're supposed to believe that you're actually, through supernatural powers, eating and drinking the body and blood of Jesus Christ. That's a concept. I listened to Father Robert Barron. Peace, Bree. Have a good time. Have a good time out of Jesus Christ. The Little Mermaid. You're supposed to really believe that you're eating the body and drinking the blood of Christ through transubstantiation. I listened to Father Robert Barron, who was disappointed that less than 60% of Catholics still believe that that's a real thing. They don't believe in the supernatural power of transubstantiation. And again, Catholicism is a Christian branch. Roman Catholicism is where a lot of Christians started, but we splintered off based on, you know what? Transubstantiation seems stupid. I'm going to start a new group. I'm not going to be a Catholic anymore. I'm going to be a non-substantiist. And we have all these denominations because of little differences in what people are willing to believe from the same book. But what I got from the book was my belief in psychology. If you've heard me talk about psychology, if you heard me talk about how to treat people, being a human, all of that came from the Bible. Almost everything you've heard me say from up here came from the Bible. My principles, a lot of them as an adult, once I read through the Bible for myself, formed from the Bible. The way I move and I give people room and grace to be messy and wrong sometimes, and I still try. Like when Simon was up here, was acting up, and I gave him multiple chances, I get that grace from the Bible. A lot of stuff that I do that you guys see is from the Bible. The reason, like the stuff with Mr. Best, where I don't get in my ego, and when I was talking about Black Man Unfiltered, where I talk about the character, I'm talking about the thing that matters to the group of us. My ego will try to make me focus on something that doesn't matter at all. The ego would see, like, I don't like the way you talk, or, you know, I'm smarter than you, I'm right, you're wrong. A lot of that stuff doesn't matter. But the people's character, we like when Jesus said, it's not what comes in, but what comes out of the mouth. What comes out of people's mouth comes out from their character. And when we start talking and people start sharing from these panels, they are sharing their character. This stuff is programming. The Bible also says faith comes by hearing. They put a qualifier on there, and hearing by the word of God. But you can hear anything. And if you're constantly listening to something, your faith is going to be from what you hear. You're going to start to believe the things you hear. That's like, what do you call it? Indoctrination. That's instruction. So it's really important that we are careful to guard our minds, guard our gates, our eyes, our ears. What we take in is important. You do become what you consume, no matter how you're consuming it. So I speak to people's character because they say that they're people that want to be right. And that's great, but we got to prove that. And we have to try to correct that in others. People that are saying that they're in brotherhood or community with us, the Bible says that has to be corrected. The same also, though, we bear each other's burdens. If you're having a struggle, we always try to help each other. Anybody that's still cool with me, like earlier today, Bree and Candidate won the stream. I'm going to jump on and just run the StreamYard for them. We bear each other's burdens. They had a conversation that they wanted to have, didn't want to run the StreamYards and stuff. Cool, I got you. We bear each other's burdens because if we truly care about each other, if we truly care about what's happening, we're going to walk out these principles. And I'm going to talk about I'm actually going to bring up 2 chapters in the Bible and work through those. We're actually going to do some Bible study and show you how I see some things. All they want is that emotional, in the heat of the moment, submission so that plate can be full when it came back. Not a bad return for a pack of crackers and a half-gallon of grape juice, man. We call the transformative part spiritual alchemy. Yeah. I've heard all of this, grew up Catholic. Real problem I had was that the priest seemed like a gatekeeper and you can only listen and absorb, but not truly participate in understanding the word. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's extremely important that you come to an understanding of God for yourself. Because imagine if you're God, Dr. Jordan Peterson, and this is a hard concept to grasp, but your God is going to be the biggest, broadest, highest concept in your mind. Like when you're a child, when I was a child, I think as a child, I spake as a child. When you're a child, your parents are like God to you. They're the biggest, most omnipresent, omniscient thing. How do they always know what I'm getting ready to say? How did they know I was doing this? Your parents in your infantile state are like your God. They're your complete source for life. They're your God. They're the biggest concept in your mind. So you revere them. You fear them. You try to appease them. That's your God in your mind. As we broaden and experience more life, something else starts to take the highest order in our mind. Something else becomes God. Sometimes that teenager, it might become yourself. It might become the approval of your friends. Something else becomes the idol. Something else becomes God. For the Hebrews, it was the golden calf. There's always going to be something that sits atop the most important thing in your mind. That thing is your God. That thing is going to drive your governing system. That thing is going to drive your choices and motivations. It doesn't matter what it is. You don't have to call it God. But if the highest thing is your crack addiction, all of your life is going to be predicated on obtaining crack and getting high. You're going to serve that God. You're going to be a slave to that God until you find a higher order thing to govern your life by. If it's sugar, you're going to make choices that reinforce how much you love sugar, how much you desire sugar, how much you uphold. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's church, not faith, not even God. If church, this is where like the Pharisees, that the people we're talking about. If church, going to church, looking like a good Christian is the highest thing in your mind, that's your God, which is why anything that will threaten the way you look to other people, anything that will make you look like less than a Christian, anything that would threaten that, you'll respond to with that vengeful wrath of God. You'll do that. You'll protect it, and it's a facade. It's a reputation, but you'll protect it fiercely because that's become your God. It's an empty God, but it's your God nonetheless because it's the highest thing in your mind, your highest motivator, the thing that you love above anything. Your own ego can become your God. You see, we call those people now narcissists. We call them narcissists. We used to call them self-absorbed. We used to call them self-centered. Now everybody uses narcissist because the highest order thing in their mind is themselves. They're their own God. I'm God's gift to earth. So the highest order thing in your mind is your God. Dr. Jordan Peterson says it, and I really believe that that's a principle. You really want to have something that doesn't move and shift and evolve, which is why in the Bible it says God is the same yesterday, today, and always. You want principles that do not move around. You want to have a standard. You want to have something stable. You want to base your life on something. As the Bible will say, you don't want to set your house on shifting sand. You want to put it on something stable, something that you can count on, something that will remain. You want your morality to be centered, focused, something that you can return to if you should stray, something you can return to because it's always where it was. You want a God concept. You want a higher order self that has a place that you can always return to because it's persistent and consistent. That's what I believe the Bible can offer if you seek it out for yourself and do not take the parts and pieces that a pastor would parcel out. I know there's a lot of alliteration, but I believe it's problematic because you're getting 1 hour a week if you only go on Sundays of a man telling you his piece that he wants to tell you from a Bible that is broad and substantial. Most of us have never even read the entire book. Most of us have not read all of the parts of it multiple times to gain true understanding. Even fewer of us have studied every aspect of the different parts of the book to have knowledge and understanding. Even fewer of us have lived out those principles that we studied and read multiple times to have understanding of, so that we had wisdom, practical knowledge and understanding. Very few people do that, which is why when the Bible talks about broad is the gate, broad is the way to destruction, is because very few of us walk the steps to have true wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. We don't. What we take is recitation. I heard someone say this. I think I understand it. It sounded good. I'm going to run off with that. Which is why when I had to get corrected quite a few times. I'm going to tell you a couple things I learned. Come as you are. Constant refrain. It's not in the Bible. There are so many things that we say are in the Bible that just aren't there. And so many things that are there that we act like they aren't. Another one. I'm trying to think of this other one. There was another one that was, oh my God. But there's so much knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be had. There's psychology. When people that talk about metaphysics, they talk about the secret. They talk about the power of positive thinking. That's in the Bible. That's all in the Bible. when people talk about like toxic positivity, they'll say things like believe it and it will come to you. That's in the Bible. When people say stuff like have an attitude of gratitude because having gratitude brings positive stuff into your life, it's in the Bible. All of those things are also in sciences. The reason I believe what I believe is the things I believe are where science and religion converged. Because has anybody ever heard of the placebo effect? The placebo effect. The placebo effect in science, most people just accept science, even though it's another faith system. Science is another faith system, but I don't want to even get into that argument. Science has proven that there's a greater than 30% success rate for sugar to solve the problem that a medication is required to solve the problem for. Simply because you believe it. Simply because you believe it's what they said it was. Hey, listen, this is a pain pill. We know your leg is broken. This is a pain pill. You know what? If they monitor you, what'll happen for 30% of people, more than 30% of people, they'll have the pain subside. They'll quit hitting the pain button because they believe they got a pain pill. And it's not just pain. There's a whole host of things. If you get something that they just say is a thing and you believe it's a thing, it changes your body chemistry. It changes your ability to ward off diseases and sicknesses simply because you believe, simply because you have faith in science. It's another faith system. And it works simply based on faith for 30% of people. Simply based on faith. Not even the actual chemical composition changing anything in your body. The thoughts alone, when they say mind over matter, the thoughts that you have in your mind and your feelings actually do change what's going on in your body and in your life. That's important to understand. It's important to understand that the stuff in the Bible is also backed by science. A good portion of it, the things that are most important are backed by science. Everything up to heaven. I can't talk about heaven. Heaven, that's a whole other thing. But almost everything that Jesus talked about outside of heaven is possible. It's plausible. There's documented proof of it in science. Almost all of it. Fox action to get the same results as given the real. It's true. It's true. And it's important to understand that. So that's why I don't shade people that truly believe, because if I believe in science, I'm still a believer. I just don't believe in Christ. I believe in beakers. I believe in lab results. It's still belief. So this is where I'm going to shade science. Because everybody talks about the Bible. It's a book that a bunch of men wrote. If you believe in science, you believe in books that some other men wrote. They just didn't put them in one super book. They did not compile a science Bible. They didn't put Einstein. They didn't put Newton. They didn't put all these guys and compile them in one book and call it the Science Bible. That's the only difference between science for us and religion for us. Because anything you know about science, you heard from somebody else. Instead of a pastor, it was a science teacher. Instead of Creflo Dollar, it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. Instead of T.D. Jakes, it was Bill Nye the Science Guy. Everything you know about science, very little of it was actual you discovering things. Very little of it. Very little. So for most of us, science is just as faith-based as religion is. So that's why I really don't truly have a problem with Christianity, because I understand it to be the same as science. Most of us are not chemists. We've never dissected a cadaver. We've never really actually done put the electrodes on somebody's brain. We've never learned how to read an MRI scan. A lot of this stuff is faith-based for us too. It's all faith-based. So I wanted to set where I'm at, because I see a lot of it. I see a lot of it as faith-based. And I'm really not shading what faith people believe in, whether it's science, whether it's religion, whether it's some philosophy. I'm not trying to shade that. I know I'll get on it, but what I was getting on was that clip I played earlier. People will hide their identity behind this faith system. Those are the people I have a problem with. not people who just have a faith system, because we all have to have something to believe in. We all have something that centers our thoughts, our values. All of us have something, no matter how low on the bar it is. We all have something, even if it's a religion. I mean, not a religion, but a person. Some of us worship a person, another flawed human being, and we'll chase our entire lives after this human being and never get what we're looking for because another person can't fulfill everything that we need in life. Jesus was a Roman invention. Science is based on proof and repeat results. So is a lot of stuff in the Bible, because a lot of stuff in the Bible is repeatable. Again, like the placebo effect. The placebo effect is repeatable. It's based on repeated results. They just use different language in the Bible to say the same thing. They just say the different. So Jesus himself is not what I'm arguing for. Jesus himself is not what I'm arguing for. What I'm arguing for is the principles that Jesus talked about that are attributed to Jesus, the character of Jesus. Those characteristics are the same things that you say science is based on proof and repeated results. There's a lot of things that are based on repeated results that the Bible talks about. Absolutely true. I guess many suffer from placebo friendships. And absolutely. Absolutely. How many times has it been, like we talk about cheating, people cheating all the time. One person thought they had a complete and happy relationship for days, for months, for years. And because you believed it, you made decisions based on that belief. That was your belief structure. Then suddenly you got a bit of information that challenged that belief. You believed in that new information that somebody cheated on. Maybe you saw something. Now your entire history, even though every day you believed, now all of that has come under question. Now you feel like all of it was a lie. Based upon this new belief that you have, it restructures your entire life and your memory of that entire time, which what was just yesterday and for the last 5 to 10 years, it was a healthy, happy relationship. Up until 3:16 today, where you saw a text message between your spouse and another person. Your entire relationship just went from healthy and happy to a complete lie based on what you believe. That's the power of our thought. That's the power of our thought. We're not actually engaging with reality most of the time. We're engaging with what we believe. We're living off and we're making choices off of what we believe, which is why I do believe a faith system chosen by us that we look into and choose for ourselves is important, because it needs to be one that kind of undergirds you for things like that. When you check that text at 3:16 and it shakes your foundation of faith, it shakes your relationships. You need something that's going to account for that. What's going to account for the way you feel after you see that text message? What's going to account for the way you feel when you find out your child has this sickness or your parent died? Which faith system is going to help you account for that? That's all I'm saying, is to be intentional about the things that we pour into us. I don't think Christianity is the worst thing to go with, but you need to look at it for yourself, because if you're only taking what people give you, they're going to give you scraps. They're going to give you the scraps, not the most important parts, because you only get what, an hour and a half of this man's time once a week now in most Christian black churches, of the person who's giving you the direct word. And even then, most of the stuff is freelancing off of a couple of verses. So what is it? 66 books, right? 66 books. You go 5 weeks a year. 5 weeks a month. Let's say I'm just give it. That's 4, but we'll give it to the 5. Maximum 5 weeks a month. You're in there for an entire month. You're in there for, 5 hours plus the halves, 7.5 hours. 7.5 hours getting direct instruction from the prophet, the man of God, the voice of God. That's who the pastor is. He's the voice of God. He's speaking up for God. He's giving you the divine instruction. So in a month, less than 1 workday is spent hearing what God actually wants for your life. And that 7.5 hours is interspersed with his commentary. So in that 7.5 hours where you could be getting direct word of God and breakdown on that, you're only getting what he says to give you and his commentary on said thing, which must include something that gets you emotionally invoked because he wants you to contribute financially. Some of it's going to be appeal to your feelings because they want you to be moved. Movement, emotional movement increases giving. That's also been scientifically studied. Scientifically studied. So science and religion do work in tandem because they're looking at the same thing both in part. And that's one of the problems, Quantum. Once you start believing that your way is the only way, is where I believe you're hiding behind an identity. Whether it's science, whether it's atheism, whether it's Democrat, whether it's black, it doesn't matter what it is. The moment a person takes on an identity and a belief structure that is completely rigid and does not account for all of the needs of a person, you run into a problem. It's a kind of a different way for me to say what I was talking about yesterday about the goal or success hinging on dying married. Like if the goal is dying married, when we know all of these obstacles exist that we're not speaking on. We're not speaking on all these obstacles that prevent somebody from living together 40 to 50 years, including an increasing lifespan. I looked it up, and I'm going to tie this in together. Since 1965, men are living about an extra 11 years on average. Meanwhile, only about 50% of marriages make it past 10 years. So now we have increased the lifespan of men who die before women. Again, we're dying before women. We've increased the lifespan enough for men that we outlive, additionally, we outlive what the average marriage lasts to. But then also say that it's a failure if you don't make it to death with the person you're married to. There's a math problem. So if success is doing this thing that less than half the people can do, and we're making it so that even fewer than half can do it in the future because we're living increasingly longer, and most marriages don't make it that long, but success is making it to the end of your life with this person, there's a problem there. There are obstacles that we're not accounting for. Why is it so hard to get past 10 years? What are we doing there? So again, the same thing with faith. What are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we so rigid in our system if it will still allow people to be starving or homeless? What does our faith system mean if it doesn't account for when you get that message at 3:16 and you find out your spouse is cheating? If whatever you believe in doesn't account for those realities of human life, it's not a practical faith system. If it doesn't help you in your day-to-day routine, if the church can sit across from a camp of homeless people and nobody ever gets fed from the church, everybody flees at the end of church service, nobody doubles back with some food. Or if they have a church function and everybody brought food and it's a potluck at that church, but nobody ever goes out there and feeds that homeless camp across from the street when Jesus said, "Feed my sheep," there's a problem. Your faith system has become something else. It's been corrupted. It's been corrupted, or it's incomplete. So whereas science is flexible, it doesn't account for everything. So it's incomplete as a faith system, which most things are. Unfortunately, most people put their faith in things like science. They put their faith. Because even people that claim atheism, I don't believe in God. That's an anti-belief. It's still a belief. You believe that there's no God. We're all believing in something, even if that something is nothing. Yeah. Jesus told Peter 3 times, "Do you love me? Feed my sheep." Peter, do you love me? Feed my people. Peter, do you love me? Feed my flock. Feed them. Feed them. They hungry. They're starving. They need attention. Bree and Kanzanan were just talking about, and the talk we just before, they were talking about the person in the relationship not being able to take on the grandparent because they already had enough on their plate. They're already tapped out. Too many resources expended on their life as is. They got the husband, they got the house, they got a job, they got 4 kids, 3 kids, whatever it was. Eventually, people become exhausted. Somebody needs to be replenished. And if your faith system doesn't account for what people need to replenish themselves, we do the ism show. Me and Bree talk about the hierarchy of needs. If people don't have their basic needs met, they're not really going to be too concerned about their soul, because I got to eat today. My kids got to eat. Where am I going to sleep tonight? I might get arrested, but I gotta go to the bathroom. So I'm gonna be behind this dumpster. But if a cop car roll by, they're gonna get me for indecency. I ain't got no money, so if they give me a ticket, I'm in trouble. Or if they took me downtown, I might not make it to work. But I got it. Excretion. Excretion was on the hierarchy of needs. There are practical concerns, and if faith systems do not account for the practical concerns of humans, it's flawed. Like that clip I played. You have to admit that your religion is flawed. Your faith system is incomplete. And if we can start there, man, we can build something amazing. If we can admit that, man, we just don't know, or that we're wrong, or that we don't have all the answers, Sway. If we can do that, man, we can build something amazing. But it takes that humility, which Jesus talked about. Jesus talked about taking care of the least of these, feeding the orphans and the widows, taking care of the undesirables. He spent his time with the publicans and the sinners. They called him a wine bibber and a glutton. They thought that the savior of humanity was a drunk and a glutton. They thought he was meat. They thought he was critically drinking and critically eating. That was Jesus. He talked to the undesirable people. He talked to the Samaritan at the well when there was a beef between his people and them. They didn't even talk to each other. What's up, man, Drill? How you feeling? How you feeling? So there's a whole misunderstanding, in my opinion, of what Jesus was asking for, because when he talked about what should a person do, he gave 2 things. He gave 2 things. He said, love God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul. Love God with everything. Love your creator with everything. And most of us think we handle that part well. It's really easy to love an invisible person. It's so easy to love your invisible friend. I'm cool with that. It's easy. The Bible also talks about love is easy when there's no challenge. It's easy to love your friends. It's easy to love those that don't challenge you. It's easy to love those that don't cost you anything. It's easy to love those that give to you. It's hard to love. It's hard to love those that hurt you. It's hard to love those that are going to cost you something, which is why the second part of what Jesus' great commandment was so hard for people to do. Love your brother like you love yourself. Love these people out here. Love these crazy people out here. Which is why when I get into these things on YouTube, I don't get into personal attacks. That's because I actually believe in the principles of Jesus. I'm going to attack what you're doing wrong. I'm not going to attack you as a person. I don't know what y'all do in y'all's day-to-day lives. I don't know what you're saying to people I don't know what you're saying to people. You might be the most humble, loving person off the internet. I'm only talking about the things that come out of your mouth, not what goes in, but what comes out of the mouth that defiles man. I'm talking about that thing, that behavior, the behavior that can be changed. That's what I'm calling out, because the behavior is coming from a character that's changeable. I'm not going to talk about anybody's height, weight, financial status. I'm not going to take any personal attacks. That's not in me anymore. It's not in me because I read the Bible and understood it to mean something different than what anybody else had ever told me. I'm required to love everybody to a degree. Required. No matter how unlikable they are. But the love, like Jesus, does not require me to make myself a punching bag. So a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that because I love you, I have to deal with you all the time, even in the midst of your dysfunction. It's not what the Bible says. That's not what Jesus said. He told his people, the people ain't listening to you, if they're not rocking with you, dust your feet off your sandals and get to walking, get to stepping. That's what he said. Do something for someone other than yourself. Pointing out of behaviors, absolutely. Man, Jesus taught some amazing stuff. And I'm about to bring up the Bible because I do actually want to hit some scripture. Instead of me just quoting stuff, I want to actually pull some stuff up on the screen so y'all can see it for yourself. And again, I implore everybody, because it honestly changed my mind, and it changed the way I live my life when I read these things for myself, because then I was able to understand completely. Imagine if you went to a restaurant and you got a sampler, right? You get a sampler. You get a taste of a few things. But when you read for yourself, it's like ordering everything on the menu, and you get to work your way through dish by dish, having a complete experience with each meal. That's a different experience than getting a sampler where you only get a few things. You get the tour of Italy at what is that? The tour of Italy. What is that? Olive Garden. You get a little bit of lasagna, a little bit of fettuccine alfredo, and a little bit of something. I mean, that's great, but you need to eat for the rest of your life. You need things that are going to last you for the rest of your life. And those couple things that they give you on Sundays, that's 7.5 hours a month, that's interspersed with commentary, that's not enough to keep you through the practical concerns. And a lot of times churches don't even address the practical concerns. Are they clothing people, housing people? I go to church often with my mother. Once a month. I told her I would go once a month with her. And the one time we went to the church and somebody was sleeping up against the door. So I opened, when we opened up, because my mother had the key. She's like, church leadership. I asked the person, did they want to come inside and rest? Showed them where the bathrooms were. Did they want something to drink? The Christians would say, take care of yourself, have a good day, please get off the front porch. Typically. These weren't even my facilities to do that with, but I could not let somebody who is sat outside all night. It's probably fall, so it's kind of cold. How could you not ask them to rest? I think Jesus said, if somebody's weary, give them rest. So they took a rest on the front pew while we set up for Sunday school. Because at this time, I was a non-Christian teaching Sunday school. Because I believe in the principles of the Bible so much. I study them. I love them. I respect them. I regard them highly. But a lot of people, again, hide their identity behind going to church. It's a way for them to wear the mask of piety, purity, something. I don't know exactly. Everybody's looking for something different. Everybody's trying to mask a different deficiency. And I can't say what all of them are. Because, again, that's very specific to the individuals. But generally speaking, there's something that they're ashamed of. And they get to hide it behind Jesus because Jesus is a cure-all. And that's fine for a moment. As a person, human to human, that's fine for a moment. Because sometimes you just need to recover and retreat from the world because the world is hostile. What was that? I wish I had started. But there's something somebody put in the chat about a combative and dysfunctional world. We have a combative and dysfunctional environment. Sometimes you need to retreat from that. The church is a great place because you should be able to find solace there. You should be able to find compassion. You should be able to find people that will go the extra mile because that's what Jesus asked people to do. You should be able to get those basic needs met at the church because that's what Jesus said to do. And that's what Jesus did. He healed people. He fed people. Those are the basics. Then he talked. Then he talked to people. Then he told people stuff. After he took care of the basics. The stuff that keeps you up at night. The stuff that has you worried about your kids. He took care of that stuff first. He took care of the stuff that kept you from being in right relationship with other people. Because I got to be at this well begging for alms. Well, let me take care of that for you. You ain't got to stand here waiting for people to give you nothing anymore. You can see now. You can move. You're now free to move about the country. You're free. Let's take care of the need first. And now we can talk. Because what I have to say doesn't matter. There's a quote, and I love it. I don't know where it came from. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And how can they think you care if you're going to leave them stinking? How could they think you care if you're going to leave them hungry? How could they think you care if you're going to leave them propped up against the outside of the church? How could they ever believe you care? So why would they ever listen to what you think you know? To me, that can never be true Christianity. That can never be what I read when I read for myself. I was okay accepting a lot of those things when I didn't read for myself and I just got pieces. You know, you understand in part because you see in part. You know, you're looking through a glass darkly. I get that. That's what I was doing. That was my Christianity. My faith was blinded. My when you know people put a filter over something, you only see like part of a picture. That was Christianity for me. I might have saw like one tip of the cross. I don't know. Just to give you a visual. I saw a tip of the cross. That's all I saw when other people gave me until I learned to read for myself. And I still know people who have been in church 20, 30 years who still don't read for themselves. And it boggles my mind. If I thought somebody had died for me, if I thought somebody who had died for me, and I was devoting my life to them, I don't want to learn everything I could about them. So I love the lessons that I learned from the Bible because it changed my life. It changed the way I approach everything. Changed the way I approach everything. Every single thing in my life changed, different. I quit beef with my family. I had to let the hate out of my heart. I was a very angry person. I was around carrying guns. I promise you, it was terrible. It was a very dark time. Very dark time. But it was terrible. It was terrible. I was ready to kill people. I was ready to kill myself because I could not get rid of the anger. I could not get rid of the rage. I could not sleep comfortably at night. I couldn't until I understood what forgiveness was for. Till I understood what forgiveness was for. What does Jesus talked about? All these pieces matter. The faith systems matter, but they have to matter to the point that they solve practical problems. You can't let anything matter too much unless it does much. Just swipe that off. Boom. Learn your way through the dark. And that's what I had to do. So that's why I actually wanted to put some respect on Jesus' name, because the teachings of Christ actually did transform my life and those around me, which is what I didn't expect. As much as I've changed, it's changed the people around me. I was able to show up better for my nephew in my mother's life. I was able to repair my relationship with my mother because I had a very contentious and resentful and combative relationship with my mother because I had a chaotic home life coming up. I hated everybody in my family, hated them. Now, because of things I've learned, I adore my mother, adore her, flaws and all, things I still can't trust her about, love her dearly. I just now know, thanks to the teachings of Christ, where to set boundaries at. You don't let everybody do everything or be everything. You don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. There's a lot of wisdom in there. And I know I said I was going to bring up the Bible. Let me do that now. Let me quit yapping. Let me do that now. My bad. Because there's 2 chapters I want to bring up. 2 chapters I want to bring up. And also, Greg Bryant, he submitted something too, because he knew he'd be at work. Greg Bryant knew he'd be at work. So he said, since I'll be working for your, this is for therapy. Never mind. This is for the therapy part. Which, because I'm ranting so much, I probably won't get to the therapy today. I'll probably push that back to another day. Speaking of Thursday, oh man, I found this lady on TikTok. Oh my God, it's so messy. I can't wait. I wanted to do it today instead. It's so messy. So if you like some mess, I like some mess. I like some mess. That's not my mess, but some other people's mess. Got a TikTok thread. I'm gonna go through this thread, super messy. I'm gonna bring a little bit of a lesson in there. It's interesting, especially about all this dating and relationship stuff. It's kind of interesting. But if you like, sip your tea, have some popcorn. This lady talks about her relationship to a person with autism, as she said, and her marriage to him and how that just flamed. It was. She's a great storyteller. Only reason I'm doing, she's an excellent storyteller. Had me compelled from beginning to end. I'm going through I'm at part 7, part 8, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Had me sucked in. So I'm gonna suck y'all into. Pause. So Greg Bryant was talking about the therapy piece. I may not do that today. Let me pull up. Let me see. I promise you, if you start to study the Bible for yourself, the reason I say religion fails you, because sometimes they'll tell you things like King James is the only version. Baby, you can only read the King James. You can only read the King James. But the King James does not use accessible language. The regular person who's never been in church all their life, if you start reading the King James, it's going to throw you off. All the these and thous and nah. You need to start where you are. So if you're the person that's hiding from yourself in church, start where you are. Find you an NIV, find you an ESV, find you a version that speaks in plain language, just so you can hear a concept that might reach you. Because right now, what you just need is a concept. You need something to grab onto. You need some faith system other than the things that have let you down on your life. So start where you can. So I'm not knocking the people who are starters. My issue with them is sometimes they'll be like, I made it now. I'm safe. Now I'm going to start preaching down to people, and I haven't fixed anything in my life. I'm going to start a profit on my pain ministry and sell courses. I appreciate you, Von Eric. But let's actually pull up the Bible here. Give me a second. Bible Gateway. Man, this is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites. I'm gonna just use the NIV, maybe NLT. Thank you, VeggieTales version. Most people rely on the KJV, the King James Version, authorized by King James, who had a whole list of problems IRL, in real life. King James had a lot of issues that would discredit one of us if he was a streamer. And everybody's like, man, we listen to King James. If anybody told you about King James, a lot of us would be looking at him sideways. Like, you listen to him? So when you listen to the King James Bible and everybody jumps on it like, oh, that's the authorized version, that's the only one that counts. Some people give them a side eye because of the history of the man himself. That's cool. Also, the way the Bible was compiled. It wasn't one big book always, and people have issues with that. That's cool too. I'm not negating any of that. All I want to do is say that there are some things in the Bible which has been compiled and moved and changed. There's some wisdom in there that also parallels things from science, that parallels things from philosophy, that parallels things from New Age, that parallel things from mysticism. There are a lot of parallels, and where I find common threads at, what I believe is that's probably the truth. Because if everybody believes it and they just use it in different words, that's probably a universal truth, and we just don't recognize it as such. So almost everybody took this, and I'm going to bring this in. Bam. I'm going to use just a plain language version so that it reads in plain language, but I get it for anybody that's a King James purist. I understand this may rub you the wrong way. Do not judge others. This is Matthew 7. Matthew 7 is my favorite chapter, especially with a person who named their channel Critically Drinking. This is something that I have to constantly keep in mind. This is how I humble check myself. This is why I don't go too hard, even though my troll side wants to go as far as humanly possible. I check myself with this. Do not judge others, and you will not be judged. The moment you start putting, let me get a parallel up here so y'all can see the King James too. That's what I can do. That would be respectful. That would be respectful. I know some of y'all King James people. The original way it says, judge not that ye be not judged. But do not judge others, and you will not be judged. For you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. Another way I can say that in internetese is keep that same energy. Because the energy you come at somebody with, they're gonna come at you with the same energy. You can't, what's another way to say that? You can't control the way somebody responds. You can control the way you act, but you can't control the way somebody responds. The moment you judge somebody, you're probably going to initiate them to respond with the exact same intensity, with the same energy, with the same level of judgment. If you're trying to prod into somebody's life, they're probably going to try to prod into yours. So you have to be careful when you're judging people, when you're coming after people, because they're going to want to come back after you. I'm not sure why that thing keeps popping up. Same with my father. Forgiveness is so freeing. Forgiving myself as well as my parents. Facts. I'm trying to tell you, man, it freed me from so much pain. It freed me from so much pain to forgive people, because what I was doing every day was constantly going to bed and waking up thinking about them, how I could harm them the way they harmed me. Came back when I wanted to harm them the way they harmed me. They were enjoying life. I'm thinking about harming them, which wasn't fun, because I never actually got to harm them because they didn't care. They're just chaotic, combative, dysfunctional people. Nothing could be done. They didn't care. They didn't care that I was hurt. They didn't care that I wanted to hurt them. Unless I actually hurt them, they wouldn't have cared. And if I did judge them and become the executioner, so to speak, they would have just come back. What did Quantum say? Comes back 3 times. 3 times. She said, which lab? It'll come back on you. The energy always rebounds. Energy always rebounds. So if you're judging people, it's going to rebound as well. Okay, listen, I'm sick of all these little features. Now, and why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? 9 times out of 10, if you're sitting there judging somebody, 9 times out of 10, there's something in your life that you need to fix anyway. That's what that verse is trying to say. Why are you worried about what they got going on when you ain't right? Clean your yard. Get your house in perfect order. Dr. Jordan Peterson. I need this to stop. Stop it. Stop it. Get some help. Get your own house in perfect order. Why are you worried about what they got going on? Stay in your yard. How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye when you can't see past the log in your own? Your life is so jacked up. How could you possibly be trying to tell somebody else how to fix theirs? Which is why you really should only give advice in the area that you've progressed in, to the point that you've progressed in. Which is why you don't hear me talking about my weight loss journey. Sure, I lost quite a bit of weight just stopping sugar, but you don't hear me talking about because I have not made enough headway and I backslide. I just had some gummy bears the other day. You ain't going to hear me up here talking about how to conquer your weight. It's not going to happen. Oh my God, it's never going to happen. Hypocrite. First, get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friends. It is so important because if you're still messed up in an area, it's going to be hard for you to see anybody who is not. You're going to see what you do as normal. So how could you correct somebody else if you're dysfunctional? You have to deal with your stuff first, because you won't even recognize what's wrong in somebody else's life if you're messed up. Which is why when we be talking about people holding people accountable, why don't you ever hold your friends accountable? Because they all think that their stuff don't stink in the same way. When everybody's like, vibe attracts tribe, right? Vibe attracts tribe. So what we're really saying is our stuff stinks in a similar way for us to not get each other sick. Your fumes don't make me nauseous. I don't get sick around you, but we're all messed up. So off the top, we're all messed up. We're all messed up in a specific degree of ways. And our vibe are the people who are kind of messed up in ways that are similar to us. So people who are liars typically spend time around other liars. People who are cheaters typically spend time around other cheaters, because that way they don't feel so judged in the way they move and act. So the only way you can say, man, listen, you need to clean that up is if you've cleaned it up. Because how could you even instruct them on how to clean it up if you've never done it? Have you ever talked to like a kid who's like first time when they first move out of the house and the first time they're trying to clean something or fix something, they don't know how? Imagine them trying to tell you how to do the thing that they've never done. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. That's what it's like talking to somebody who's not developed in an area, a kid, somebody who's not developed in a specific area, but they're going to instruct you on how to progress to a level that they themselves have never matured to. That's what people do. That's what a lot of these online spaces end up being. A lot of friend advice a lot of times is that I'm going to tell you how to remain married, though I've never been married. That's crazy. So now me, I can tell you about sustaining a relationship or repairing a relationship. I can't tell you about marriage. Anything outside the theoretical, I can't tell you about marriage. I can't. Can't even tell you what the forms that you got to sign look like. Never done it. And that's practical. I don't even know what the forms look like. How can I instruct you on marriage where I couldn't even tell you how to fill out the form? Like if somebody really needed step-by-step instructions on how to do something because they had no clue at all, I couldn't even tell you how to fill out the form. I don't even know what it looks like. I don't know what to ask you. Check the track record. Absolutely. Don't waste what is holy on people who are unholy. Don't throw your pearls to pigs. Don't cast your pearls before swine. We've heard that a million times. They will trample the pearls, then turn and attack you. That's the problem. And it's hard. Now, this is a hard part to get. like to actually apply, not to get, to apply. Because we want to save everybody. We think everybody's a human. We think everybody's valuable. Everybody's not operating in their humanity. So if they're operating in an identity and not their humanity, a lot of times you're just casting your pearls before swine. They're going to attack you because they can't recognize the compassion. They can't recognize the gentleness that you're coming with. It doesn't make any sense to them. They can't. It looks like weakness if you come from a combative, chaotic environment. If you come from a dysfunctional environment, the tenets that Jesus tried to teach people, things that the fruit of the Spirit, those things look like weakness if you come from a place of constant warfare. So if you try to bring those things to the wrong person because they haven't tapped into humanity, you're wasting your time, and it can get you attacked because what they see you as is a weak person on a battlefield, which is why they say things like, don't take my kindness for weakness. Don't take my kindness for weakness. That comes from this principle. Testify of what you've been through, and don't talk too much because they can't receive it. If somebody is not of the mind to listen, they can't tap into humanity. They can't listen with an understanding ear, an ear to hear. The Bible talks about an ear to hear. Those that have an ear to hear. If they don't have an ear to hear, move on. Because you'll try to force, like you'll do that thing. You'll try to force. Listen, I got this thing in my eye. I'm going to ignore that because I want to help you so much. You're going to try to get this thing out of their eye, but you can't really see clearly yourself because you're messed up. Then because of their state, because you're so busy trying to get this thing out of their eye, but because you can't see, you're probably poking them in the eye where the thing isn't even at anyway. They're going to attack you because you're probing their eye to remove something, and you can't even see straight because of what's going on in your life, which you haven't corrected. Which is why what I like about the Jesus model is a lot of times he was just at a place. A lot of times he was just at a place. He didn't go seek out certain people. He would just be in the place, in the room where it happens. Shout out to Hamilton and Yellow. I can't stand that show, but he would just be in a place. He would be available. The best ability is availability. He will be at a place, and there's a need. There's always going to be a need. The poor will always be with us. There's always going to be a need around you. There's always going to be lack. There's always going to be lack. So he would just be in a place where lack existed. And what lack is going to do eventually, if it's in a place to receive humanity, lack is going to reach out. Because see, lack has two modes. There's the prideful lack. I don't need nothing. Ain't nobody ever done nothing for me anyway. It's very resentful. It's very bitter. Then there's broken lack. Broken people typically seek a hospital. Church is typically known as a hospital. Broken people need humanity because they need to be cared for. They need to be nurtured. They start having these needs that open up. They can no longer project a defense around their vulnerability. That brokenness brings a level of humility because they can no longer sustain themselves. Then that lack reaches out. And then because you're in the space where the lack exists and is reaching out, you can then reach back. That's a way to look at that. As opposed to trying to push things on people who are not receptive, you just be around people where lack exists. And eventually when they're in the right space, when they're receptive, when they're vulnerable, they'll reach out and you're available to reach back. Testify what you've been through. I read that one. Yes. Can you hear me? Holler if you hear me. Okay, now I'm in the right account. Over here cooking dinner. That's what she said. All of the accounts are the right account. So when people attack, it's on them because they're irritated. Absolutely. All the actions that you take are because of the individual that takes the action. Their actions are on them. But the actions are influenced by a host of things. The Bible says, be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. So you just need to understand the operation, the room that you're operating in. We said the term, I can't remember the exact comment in the chat. Combative, chaotic, dysfunctional. You're in a place that's combative, chaotic, and dysfunctional. You have to understand that people are going to move from that space. So when they're irritated, like we talked about yesterday with reframing things, they'll say they're irritated, but maybe they're depressed. They're irritated, but maybe they're afraid because they don't know where they're going to get their next meal, where they're going to eat, what their job prospects are going to look like, if their spouse is going to leave them, or if they're cheating. That anxiety, those feelings, they come out. They're going to manifest in their body in some kind of way, either internally attacking, or they're going to lash out and externally attacking. You have to be aware of all this. That's what wise as a snake means. You're as wise as something that is predatory, seeks to consume, and is deadly. You have to know as much as the opposition knows. To use internet language, you got to know as much as the ops. Your ops. Everybody got ops. Everybody got ops. Everybody got haters. You have to know as much as they know. You need intel. You need information. You need to know where and how to be. Who's a threat? You got to know that stuff. But you just don't move with harmful intent. Harmless as a dove. Effective prayer. All these pieces. Matthew 7. Matthew 7 is like the quintessential chapter for me. Now, this one is always problematic for me because people take it a certain way. But I don't believe it the exact way it's read. I'm going to read it in the King James. Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened to you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. It sounds too easy. That's why I have a problem with it, because people take it literally. Keep on asking and you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, everyone who seeks finds, and to everyone who knocks the door will be open. Superficially, if you read it like that, I find that problematic. This is where I talked about earlier, lived experience. If I take that literally, all I got to do is ask and I'm going to get. I've never had that experience. I've grown up in poverty. I asked for a lot of things, couldn't have them. So I had to then interpret this a different way. I'm not telling you to do what I did, but my lived experience told me that this isn't true. I see a lot of people that didn't get everything they asked for. I see a lot of people today don't get everything they asked for. And for a lot of us, it's better that we don't get everything we ask for anyway, because a lot of us have self-destructive tendencies from coming up in a combative, chaotic, dysfunctional environment. So one, there's that. So for me, how I have interpreted this, and I'm telling you, this is just my interpretation. This is not some grand philosophy that I can back up with anything. This is how I have to interpret this just to accept it. If you keep on asking, you will receive. Because in me, if I maintain my mind, if I'm maintaining my mind on something, what I'm going to do is put the actions in place to start to acquire the thing. I'm not going to just sit, because there's another chapter with another verse later that says faith without works is dead. So if I'm asking and seeking, but I'm not actually doing anything, I'm probably not really asking or seeking. Asking is a verb. That's a verb. I'm doing something. I'm asking. Seeking is a verb. If you seek, you shall find. For me, a lot of this is about mindset. Like when we talk about people cheating. If you're looking for problems, you're probably going to find problems. Like the placebo effect. If you believe something, you're probably going to find something that justifies that belief. That's just the nature of things. So for me, that's kind of what this thing is talking about. If you keep asking, you're going to get an answer. You're going to receive what you ask for. Then what you'll do is when you get something, you'll start to believe that this must be it. I'm going to talk about this lady Thursday. I told you about that the messy marriage. She said she had a dream, and there was they had twins, and there was this guy, and he specifically said this one word wrong. He was trying to read this one word, characteristics, and he had trouble reading this word. She remembered that from the dream. She met this guy. He said the word wrong, characteristics, when they were having a conversation. She thought this was her God-ordained man. You're going to ask for something. Something's going to present itself as the thing you asked for. Almost guaranteed. You're looking for a job. There's going to be a job opportunity. You're going to be like, man, this must be the one that God's answering my prayers. You'll be there, and after 2 years, you're going to hate yourself. Is that what really God wanted? I think to me, this one, and this is one, again, this is part I have the most trouble with. To me, this is your mind, the mind over matter part. You're going to make the pieces fit. You're going to make the pieces fit. So for me, what I had to internalize was because my mind is just going to make pieces fit, I'm going to make connections that probably shouldn't be made. I have to make sure I'm doing the work and have the intention and the understanding so that when I do that, I'm doing it in a healthy way. I'm not trying to force things that don't belong together. I'm not in like I say lust. I'm not in desire. I'm not in temptation. I'm not in a place where I'm seeking, like I'm thirsty. I want something so bad. I'm trying to force it, like all that stuff. That's the way I interpret that. And I have to put in the work to get it. I can ask, but I have to be asking. Keep on asking. That's a verb. That's an action thing. So you have to be in action. You have to be in movement. You have to be working towards whatever it is you're looking for. And you'll get a result. I really do believe that. It may not be the exact result you want, which is why I say I have a problem with that verse, but it's important. Because people think you'll be able to ask for anything and you'll get that specific thing you ask for. So when people talk about prayer, they'll tell you to ask for something and you'll get it. And you'll have all these people disenchanted and disillusioned because they're not getting it. All those verbs are the works you should perform in order to walk in faith. Absolutely. You set your mind on something and then act towards it. And again, that problem, though, that they say, ask and you shall receive. That sounds too simple. That sounds like a handout. That's not the way I've seen life happen. Mind and movement in alignment towards the end result, already seen within the mind. Now, I'm going to tell you the next step of this. This is a further principle that's not really inhibited. That doesn't manifest in these words. When you ask, now this is the power of positive thinking or the secret. This is that kind of thing. Speaking stuff into existence. What I do believe is that when you set your intention on something, things around you, unbeknownst to you, do start putting themselves in alignment for you to have what you ask for. But I also think everything like a new like you turn this way. If you turn this way, there's a new view of the room open to you. And if you turn the other way, there's a new view of the room open to you. New obstacles, new opportunities. So the way that you turn, like even in your room right now, if you turn around behind you, you're going to have different things. Maybe now there's a table behind you. So if you turn around, you're going to have a table that's an obstacle that you can stub your toe on. But maybe there's also a glass of water, a new opportunity. Life is like that too. If you turn your attention in a specific way, you have new opportunities that open up, but you also have new obstacles. So asking you shall receive, you may get the opportunity that's in that lane, but you're also going to get the obstacles, including things that are false realities, things that look like what you want, but they're not. So all of that is in there. So that's something that you got to, that's why I say studying the Bible is important, because if you read it at first glance, man, you'll be like, man, I can ask for whatever one I get. I want a flying car. Boom. You're never going to get that. In the world of the craft, there are rules to asking. So that one doesn't ask amiss. That's important. Asking is only a third of the process. I would say your intention to know what the intention and information to need to know what you should ask for, then the ask, and then the you trying to attain the ask. What work do you do to manifest that reality, to make it happen? The willpower. You've got to do some things. Are you doing the right things? Are you checking the goal? Like, are you the smart goals? Am I closer to getting what I wanted? Do I have space for what I wanted? All of those things matter. Your parents, if your children ask for a loaf of bread, do you give them a stone instead? Or if they ask for a fish, do you give them a snake? Of course not. So if you sinful people know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father give good gifts to those who ask him? Unfortunately, though, we do have cruel people on this earth that will do stuff like this. But sticking with what's actually here is just talking about the mind of God. And this is where I depart. I don't try to speak for the mind of God to give you exactly what you wanted, because, again, we don't even know what to ask for a lot of times. So some of the things I take in the Bible, I understand that a person wrote it with a specific intent. This person is trying to let you feel as if you ask for something, you can get it because God loves you enough to give you what you want. I just have the deeper understanding of lived reality that I don't even always know what's best for me. So a lot of times what I ask for is not the thing that I need the most. I'm sure a lot of us have had relationships or jobs that we asked for, but when we got there, it was the worst thing for us at that time. It was really detrimental to us. It might have caused us some kind of harm or a setback. So I try not to take it literally, ask and ye shall receive. What I try to do is interpret that is, I can ask and things will be set in order so that I can possibly get what I want, but there's work that I have to do, both on the mental aspect of needing to understand and the physical aspect of needing to do. So those are both important. This is the golden rule. All of us know this. We hear it so much. Do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. This is the essence of all that is taught in the law and the prophets. And this is, again, going back to the great commandment from Jesus. Love your brother as you love yourself. Do to them what you would like done to you. And if you actually live that out, you'll never intentionally go to harm another human being because you yourself don't want to be hurt. If you're healthy, you do not want to be hurt. So why would you want to hurt somebody else? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. If you actually thought as every other person on this planet as another you, we wouldn't do half the stuff we do. Wouldn't do half of it. Let me clear my nose real quick. I'll be right back. All right. So how does one love self? It's how they will love others. When I did that thing on love and we looked at those 8 Greek words, there was one word that meant the ability to love yourself. And I talk about this quite a bit. Everything that you do for yourself, and I talked about this with forgiveness with Mandrill, you are the avatar for your ability to understand every other human on this planet. You are the example of humanity for yourself that you map onto other people, which is why when people say projection, what they're saying is you understand yourself away. And when you try to understand somebody else, you're assuming that they operate the same way you do. That's what they mean when they say projection. So most people know themselves away and then think, because if you ever, we've had a lot of these conversations, especially on YouTube, like, man, so-and-so, these other people, they don't do what we do. And then somebody actually brings in research or lived experience and they're like, no, that's not the way they move at all. Or everybody thinks their reality is either special or the same as everybody else. I don't know. It's like a dichotomy. Either we're special, nobody else does what we do, or everybody's the same and we don't have any differences. Both of those are off. Like it's a mixture. Everything's typically in the gray area in between. Neither are correct. So you have to understand that you are yourself. You are a very specific entity that's slightly different than everybody else around you. And everybody else is in that same vein, slightly different. They don't like exactly what you like. There's going to be things that you have great departure on. I was shocked to find out so many people didn't like ranch dressing. Blew my mind. I'm like, man, ranch is amazing. But we get self-centered like that. That's something that we all do. So it's something that you have to pay attention to. But my point was, what I was trying to get to, how you love yourself, how you respect yourself, how you take care of yourself, how you, what you buy for yourself. All of those tendencies create what you think a person is worthy of. That level of love, that level of forgiveness, that level of this, that level of that. You set the baseline for your capacity to do things like love, respect, forgive. Because if you want a lot of forgiveness, you should also be able to show a lot of forgiveness. Which is why when people don't, when they ask for a lot but give little, we start looking at them funny. It's out of balance. We notice out of balance people. We notice when people are out of balance. We have the Krabby Patty secret formula, but there's a lot of other formulas and they're just as tasty. Understanding self in relation to and not with the intent to compare to seems like will work better than. Interesting. Understanding yourself, that's a good starting point. I'm me. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. That's a good starting point. You just can't stop there. Well, maybe they like something different. Well, I found out me and you were both Leos, but you a July Leo, me an August Leo, woman, man, we're slightly different. And we can't say that just because we're Leos, everything is going to be 100% the same. We can't make those type of assumptions. So part of loving other people as you love yourself or doing to others as you would like them to do to you, part of that that's what is not said in the words, but is necessary if you understand what love will require, because you're different than me. I would have to be curious enough about who you are as a human to find out how you need to be loved, how you need to feel loved, because all of us have felt unloved by somebody who said they loved us because they wouldn't do the things that matter to us. So one of the things that this does not say, doing to others as you would have them doing to you, we would want everybody to care enough about us to ask about us, to find out what we like, to remember our birthday, So inherent in that is a requirement that we extend that same type of energy to other people, which is where people fail. Nobody wants to be that selfless. We want all that time and attention. We want all that energy poured into us, but nobody really wants to turn that back around. That's why it's so hard. That's why the path to destruction is so wide. That second commandment from Jesus is extremely hard because we got to love unlikable people. You ain't got to like them, but you got to love them. That was the requirement. The narrow gate, which is coming up, and I keep talking about the gate. I bring up the gate a lot. You can enter into God's kingdom only through the narrow gate, the skinny door. And I'm fat. The skinny door. You can go through the skinny door. The highway to hell is broad, and its gate is wide, busted wide open. It's so wide for the many who choose that way. Most people choose to go the big, wide, broad way. It's a highway, super highway, lots of lanes. Everybody loves it. You can go as fast as you want. But the gateway to life is very narrow, like a little dirt road. And the road is difficult. It's bumpy, winds, hilly. Only a few ever find it because most people don't investigate. Most people like to go the path everybody else is going because we understand how to, oh, you're going that way, let me follow you. And we follow the way to destruction because it's easy, it's convenient. That's the way we live. And again, this philosophy is in the Bible. It's useful understanding. Like this stuff changed my life. The tree and its fruit. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep but are really vicious wolves. We're on the internet. We talk about this stuff all the time. We talk about people like the frauds and the phonies and the scammers. Beware because people will come telling you good things. Man, I can help you. I can save you. Profit from your pain. I'm going to help you heal from being cheated on. They'll tell you all kinds of wonderful things, and they'll seem sweet. They'll seem funny. They'll seem invested. They'll seem encouraging. They'll seem a lot of ways, but what they're really doing is just trying to take from you. Taking from somebody that's already hurt and looking for help. When I talked about the broken person who's exposing their vulnerability, you're in that state. You're vulnerable. You're open, and that person just reaches in and takes something out instead of putting something in. Instead of making deposits, they're making withdrawals. If you happen to get something, great. If you don't, they really don't care because they're here to take. Same with the preachers and the priests and the stuff who is sexually predatory. They're there to take. They're there to take. There are a lot of takers in this world, and they'll put themselves in positions of compassion because people are seeking the help. They don't even have to go out and chase anything. People are coming to them for help and open and vulnerable. And you can just sit there and just collect it like a trap. It's a trap. So you have to really be careful in spaces where people need help because that's where the predatory people will go so that they don't have to put in any work. It's important to understand. Vicious wolves, people that just want to take, and they're in there saying that I'm here for the right reasons. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you down the broad way to destruction. You can identify them by their fruit. Now, I love this verse. I say it differently. Ye shall know them by their fruit. Judge them by their fruit. Do men gather grapes or thorns or figs or thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. Now, this is how I judge people. This is how I judge people. You can identify them by their fruit. That is, by the way they act, by their behavior. Like Mr. He said, put in the chat earlier, by their behavior. Not what they say. It doesn't matter how many times they apologize. That's not fruit. Judge them by how they behave. Watch action. The best apology is changed behavior. Judge them by the way they act. Can you pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? No. You can't go and grab leaves and come up with roses. No, you have to look for an actual rose. You have to not look for the things that accompany something. You have to look for the thing itself. So the words don't really mean anything. The changed behavior is where you see what somebody's really on about in the inside. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. A bad person is not going to do a whole lot of good things, and a good person is not going to do a whole lot of bad things. You are what you consistently do. What fruit are you producing? You are what you consistently do. If you're consistently doing some mess, you're a mess. If you're consistently helping people, you're a helper. The thing that you consistently do is what you are. So every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown into the fire. we got to weed. We have to remove people who are harmful. If you want to have a family, if you want to have a community, anything that you're trying to build with other humans, you can still love them like, man, you're harmful. What I can't do is allow you to be in Thanksgiving after you harm the cousin. You can't be at Thanksgiving. I know you'll be sorry to miss it, but you're harmful. You've done harm to the family. Can't be here. Can't do it. And we got to take that stance because every tree does not produce good fruit. We got to get rid of it. Just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. Identify people by their actions. True disciples. Now, this is why I have a problem with those people who hide behind the identity of Christian to hide that their deficit of an identity. Because if you stay there, if you do not just have an entry point of I don't know anything, I'm hiding in Jesus to get prepared. If you just stay there and you're zealous and you're preaching down to everybody, but you haven't gotten that thing out of your eye but trying to tell everybody else, that's bad fruit to me because you end up harming people. So not everyone who calls out to me, Lord, the Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven. Only those who actually do the will of my Father will enter heaven. So it doesn't matter if everybody's called in the name of Jesus. It doesn't matter if they call themselves a Christian. If they're not doing the work, the will of the Father, if they're not keeping the commandments, if they're not loving thy brother, if they're not doing the things like the Bible talks about, that Jesus talked about, that I've been trying to say, if you're not doing the things, if the fruit's not there, God doesn't even recognize it. You're not getting in. You ain't got your pass stamped. What are you talking about? Yeah, you said Jesus a lot, but you're not in the club. You didn't do any of the things. You didn't do any of the things. You ever tried to return something and like, where's the receipt? You didn't bring the receipt. You didn't bring any proof. Where's your proof? You can't just say I bought this here and I spent $1 million on it. That sounds great. Where's your proof? So everybody that says they're a Christian, which is why when I'm talking about, when I said that I attack Christians, I attack people that say, Lord, Lord, but don't have any fruit. That's my problem. On Judgment Day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, we prophesied in your name and cast out demons in your name and performed many miracles in your name. Like Brother he said earlier, there are many wars and many people butchered and slaughtered in his name. But I will reply, I never knew you. Get away from me. You break God's laws. God is saying, I don't even know y'all. I don't even know y'all. I don't recognize y'all. Y'all's name is unfamiliar to me. What's your name again? I don't think I've met you, sir. I have somewhere else that you could probably be comfortable. If he approaches the tree that looked like it had fruit and it doesn't, what happens next? It gets cursed. It got cursed. When Jesus went to a tree and it looked like it had fruit, but it didn't, it did all the things. It did all the performance. Like the Pharisees and Sadducees, look how good of a Christian I am, but I'm not actually doing good for people. Those people get cursed. Those things get cursed, thrown into the fire. Those are negatives. Pretending to be something and not actually doing the work behind it, that's a negative, according to Christian mentality. It's a negative to present yourself as a helper and not help. That's a negative. That's why y'all have heard me over the last month mention that so many times in different ways. It's a negative. It's a negative to say that I'm here for the community or I'm here to build family, and that's not, the actions don't speak to that. That's a negative. Negative should get negated. Anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise, like a person who builds a house on solid rock. I think I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Though the rain comes in torrents and the floodwaters rise and the winds beat against the house, it won't collapse because it is built on bedrock, solid and stable foundation. But anyone who hears my teaching and doesn't obey, it is foolish, like a person who builds a house on sand. When the rains come and the floods come and the winds beat against the house, it will collapse with a mighty crash. And what he's saying there, again, my interpretation of what this is saying, when I talked about having a faith system that accounts for things, that's why I said there's work that is done. Like this is saying there's work that has to be done. Anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it, if you hear the words and do it, Don't be ye only hearers of the word, but doers also. You have to be a doer. If the work isn't done, if the fruit doesn't grow, it's a problem. It's like a house built on sand. If you do the work, if you hear the words and do the work is loving your brother. If you love on people, if you take care of people, your house is stable, because when the storms of life come, you'll be able to withstand it, because we bear each other's burdens. You'll have enough hands on deck to make any reparations that need to be made, any things that need to be shored up. You'll have people, because you've been pouring love into people. They're not going to let you just get washed away. That's not how people operate who feel like they've been loved. That's unnatural. It's the people who say they have. They say a lot of things, but the actions never came to fruition. Fruit. Never came to fruit. There was no fruit that was born out of those relationships. That's like sand. Because then when the storms of life come and they're looking around for help, they never poured into people. Nobody's going to have the reserves to pour back, because you never really poured in anybody else. You never put any energy out for it to rebound and help you out. Nobody's going to help you. That's why your house is going to collapse. It's going to be empty. Your word's going to come back void. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, for he taught with authority, quite unlike their teachers of religious law. He taught with authority because he was saying stuff that really mattered to people. He was saying stuff that really mattered to people, unlike just the law. Do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. That's empty, especially when a lot of times the teachers are doing the exact opposite of what they're teaching you. Jesus was out there with the people, the publicans and the sinners, the prostitutes, anybody who had a stain on their social currency. He was out there with them. They thought he was a drunk and a glutton. They thought he ate everything and drank everything, because he was out there eating with the people. People got fed around him. Everybody knows if you've been to church, if they're feeding people, everybody's up in there. Everybody shows up when there's food. Jesus was the life of the party. So a structure can't withstand natural forces that will come if the foundation is not right. Right. It's hard if your foundation is not right, it's hard to not even a natural disaster, but like you said, natural forces, like the ground shifting, like basic things, the ground shifting, basic wind, regular rain, not even torrential rain, not the floods that this talked about. It's hard to weather normal stuff if your house's foundation is problematic. Not chaotic, catastrophic, not even on that level. The weaker your foundation is, which is why on these even panel conversations, the weaker the foundation of somebody's logic is, the less it takes them to snap in these arguments, because the foundation of what their ideology is based on is so fragile. The moment somebody says something that opposes them a little bit, they start getting really angry. They're shaken up. The foundation came out from under them. Their house is on nothing. It's problematic. A lot of times when people have commended me for not falling apart, when people are coming at me or in a disagreement and I'm not yelling, because my foundation is secure. Nobody's going to shake my foundation by saying any number of things. The words don't mean anything. Let me show me what you do. Show me what you do. I'll put what I do against what other people do, and then we can compare there. But if there's no fruit, what am I looking at? So you can't shake me just by rustle. You can't just shake a branch and my mom be like, I fall apart. I'm not going to fall apart because somebody shake the branch. I've been through enough stuff in life that a little testing on the internet, a little branch shaking, a little tree shaking, that's not going to do it. It's not going to do it. Thank you, Ty Lieber. Thank you. So if the normal is already hard, then it will be even harder if something great. Exactly. And quantum, that's how life is set up. Every day you have normal, like just think about, I believe my version of God is the patterns that we see in natural life, in the universe, on the earth. These are all signatures of God. Whatever God is, however he shows up. If you look in nature, if you were just exposed to the elements, every day will be a hard struggle to live. You got the sun, or you got the wind, or you got the cold. That's hard. That's difficult. Every now and then, though, something really big is going to come, like a torrential rain or a flood or a drought or a blizzard. That's life. There is a daily challenge every day that you're going to have to deal with the elements of life as they come. You're going to have to deal with the sun. You're going to have to deal with the rain. You're going to have to deal with the cold. You're going to have to deal with something every single day. There's no way around it. No way around it. You're going to deal with something. Or maybe it'll just be a gray, dreary day and you have to deal with your feelings about how ugly it is. You're going to have to deal with something just in nature. You're going to have to deal with it. You still got to find food. You still got to find shelter if you need shelter, something to entertain yourself. You're always going to have a struggle. Severity is going to change. But every now and then, something truly chaotic and disruptive is going to change your entire environment, change your entire ecosystem, change the way you and everything around you moves. Everything. Everything is going to get shaken up every so often by something major. That is the pattern that happens in our lives, even in relationships. But it comes from nature. I see it in nature. So I don't see it as a bad thing. I see that as life as it's supposed to go. You're going to have a lot of steady, incremental things that you need to account for. Then every now and then you're going to have to, hopefully you've stored up enough in yourself and outside of yourself, whatever you need. Hopefully you've made enough preparation so that when those big things come, and they're going to come, nature has shown us this. The big things are going to come. You have a stable of enough of a foundation that's been built, like this is saying, to withstand it. Unfortunately, the daily stuff shakes a lot of people, which goes back to when I talked about feeding people, clothing people, housing people. Some people are shook by the basics. So those that have a stable foundation can then provide shelter and provide sustenance, can provide whatever is needed for the people who have a lesser degree of capability. You can take part in teaching them, to helping them, saving them in some capacity. And then because they're like, man, you obviously know some stuff I don't know. You obviously live a different way that I live. And you fed me and housed me. Excuse me. I feel safe now. Thank you. The storm's not about to kill me. How did you do this? How is your house still standing? Everybody else's house is collapsing. I just saw a house slide down the hill. Oh man, you know, I put like 30-foot anchors down into the earth, cement wrapped. I wouldn't build my house up on this hill without that. Oh wow, that's crazy. How did you even know to do that? I looked around. I saw the debris at the bottom of the cliff. Obviously, people have done this before, and they keep sliding off the cliff every so often. And it looked old, so it happened a while ago. Maybe it's about to happen again. I was like, well, let me shore my stuff up. I mean, just basic stuff. Basic stuff. Some stuff is cyclical. It happens routinely. It happens again and again. Maybe every 5 years, every 10 years, every 20 years. People talk about midlife crises. There are different points in a person's life where they're going to come up against mental crises. When around 20, when you got to find out who you are without everybody else, without your friends from school, without your family, there's a crisis. Then there's a midlife crisis. Then there's a late life crisis. I don't know who I am anymore. The kids are gone. I'm old. What happened? There are different points where something cataclysmic happens in your life. These cycles they happen in nature. They happen in your mind. They happen in your body. Your body changes multiple times. Look at the development cycle. Look at the chart of a person when they're a child, when they're adolescent, when they're mature, when they start to decline on the back end, and then when they're old and they're short again. Those are cataclysmic physical changes. Your bones and your muscles are stretching, and then on the back end, they're drying. There are things going on. Again, it's like the life cycle of the seasons. Spring, summer, fall, winter. Those are cataclysmic changes. Have you ever seen how the trees respond to this stuff? They shed all of their leaves. But what happens is the cycle keeps turning and they can grow again. Like there are cycles of this stuff. All this stuff is, to me, all of this stuff, that's the signature of God to me. So nobody can ever tell me that there's no God because of that. So when we had that conversation, everybody's like, it doesn't sound like you believe in God. No, I believe in God. I just don't see him the same way you see him. I don't see him as an old man with a beard sitting on some kind of throne somewhere that I need to go and walk on the streets of gold. If I don't have a body, why do I need gold streets? The God I believe in will be more impressive than that. Why would I need gold? I don't have gold here because I'm broke. So I want to go somewhere where I can walk on gold. I'm so much better than the poverty I have here. So that I'm gonna die to go to heaven so I can walk on gold. This gold is so unimportant. The thing I can't have here is so unimportant. There I get to walk on it. That's a man's mindset. That's not somebody who understands what I see as the mind of God. God is so much bigger than that. Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You're doing great. I appreciate that. So learning to be in flow like nature seems to be useful. Be water, my friend. observing cycles, patterns, a system of things, all working in a turn, a time and a place. And the Bible talks about that too. There's a time for everything, a time to laugh, a time to cry, a time for all this stuff. I promise you, the Bible is full of great philosophy and psychology. If I talk to you about when it says think on these things that are good, what is good and what is beautiful, that's like that, focusing on positive, which if you go into medicine and science, they'll tell you that the outcomes of people who stay positive are far greater. If you're thinking about, if you have a positive mindset before you go into a surgery, you have, like, I can't even remember the exact percentage. Y'all can look it up. Y'all can Google it. Don't believe me. Google it. People that go into a surgery, especially, and I think it was either gender-based or age-based, you have a far greater positive outcome based upon your positive or negative mentality. If you're positive, you come out far greater, faster recovery, all of this stuff, just based on the things that you focus on. There's resonance to your thoughts. Like I said, the placebo effect changes your physiology. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. Science can't account for it. So there has to be something that's above science, or science is incomplete. So like when we started with that video, and the lady said, you might break your identity if you admitted that your religion is flawed. A lot of people they would be hurt if they had to admit that their science was flawed. If science can't account for the placebo effect, it's incomplete or it's flawed. So science is an incomplete belief system. It's not a fact system. It's a belief system. And I'm okay with that. My identity is not wrapped up in science. So it doesn't hurt me to say that it's flawed. It doesn't hurt me to say that it's incomplete. Same with religion. My identity is not wrapped up in religion or spirituality. So to say that it's flawed or incomplete doesn't harm me. But I both know that science is an amazing tool for the advancement of humanity. So too is spirituality. So too is religion. All of them are an amazing tool. But like any tool, a tool can be weaponized. That's the dichotomy. Positive and negative, yin and yang. We get to choose what we do with that. The Bible talks on that too. Choose ye this day, life or death, positive or negative. We get to choose. That's our choice. I agree. Some of the best teaching. Thank you. Ebb and flow, like the law of polarity, law of rhythm, just like the torus field goes in and out of itself. While I was gone, I was listening to a parallel podcast about where tech is going and how people are going to hide from it. Others will want to swim in it, but many are just going to be victims of the flood. Absolutely. That is the way of life. I can build or destroy. That's the way of life. And like, there's a lot of truth hidden in a lot of places, like Goldilocks. This bed is too big. This bed is too small. This bed is just right. That's the dichotomy. The extremes on both the ends, and then right in the middle is the balance. Somewhere in the middle. This is too cold. The porridge is too cold. This porridge is too hot. This porridge is just right. Finding balance, building and destroying are both extremes. If you build, if you have a finite space, if you're continually building, you're either going to deplete your resources or run out of room. If all you do is destroy, there'll be nothing left standing. So you have to find a balance between the two. Balance is important in almost everything, including the way you think. If you think you're all wrong or if you think you're all right, you're just, either way is out of balance. Nobody is all one thing. If somebody says they're a good person, how? Even Jesus said, why does thou call me good? There's none good but God. How you gonna call me good? I'm a man. How you gonna call me good? I'm a human. I've got good and bad in me. You wouldn't need to have a Jesus if there was all good. If there was good people, they wouldn't need Jesus. He came to save people from the badness that exists in them without their approval. So anyway, those are some of the things. That's from Matthew 7. I do want to go into one more. Because again, that's why I love this stuff. This is why I love it. I always respect it. That's why I taught Sunday school as a non-Christian. And again, it's not that I'm proud to be a non-Christian. I don't ever want to make anybody think that I'm trying to live a life. I'm trying not to make somebody look for fruit where there's none. I'm not going to give you spiritual fruit like I can get you in heaven. You don't look for that fruit here. I'm not a Christian. But there's psychology and philosophy that I pulled out of this spiritual system that I believe saved my life, saved other people's lives. Because again, I was out here, gun toting, looking. Well, it was the devil comes for who he can kill, steal. I was out. I promise you, I was so angry and rageful, and hated my life so much, hated myself so much that I was willing to die to harm others. That's where I was until I heard that weird. I promise you, I said this earlier. I heard that weird story about a talking donkey. I had never heard it in my life. 30 years of listening to Bible stories. Nobody ever told me about a talking donkey. In my 7.5 hours a month, listening to people talk about the Bible, I never heard about it. How? That's amazing. Then I read the story. You should go read it. Balaam, Balaam, Balaam. Read that story. Read the story of Balaam. It's interesting. And then when I read the rest of the books, when I read about the founders of the faith, when I read about Abraham and him lying about his wife being his sister, when I read about Jacob and him stealing the birthright from his brother and heel catcher, and wrestling with either God or an angel, that's debatable depending on interpretation of the word, which I had to look up in a different language. All this stuff, it's immensely interesting. Even if you're not spiritual about it, it's interesting as a literature study. It's immensely interesting and immensely valuable if you want to take away positive lessons. But when we talked about seeking, you shall find. If you're seeking for things that are to confirm your bias, confirmation bias, that's another way that one I have a problem with. Seeking, you shall find. Asking, confirmation bias. If you're looking for something that's going to back you up, that's what you're going to find. If you're looking for something that's going to dispel somebody else's argument, that's what you're going to find. So that's another way to look at that verse that I find problematic, that people take as a literal. If I ask for it, if I ask for candy's just going to fall from the sky. That's obviously not true. The best way forward is to realize you can't do it alone. Find your community and make it strong enough to withstand what's coming. Absolutely. And you get that by loving your brother. If you love people, there's something in us. There's something in us. And I have to believe it's from whatever created us. There's something in us that does not want to let people, if you're operating from a place of compassion and empathy, because we know what things cost us, like what energy costs us, what time costs us, what money costs us. If somebody's pouring into us, we want to do something for that, for them. Reciprocity. Energy wants to return. And maybe energy just metaphysical. Maybe energy is just using us. Somebody pours energy into us. Energy doesn't like sitting still. Energy wants to move. Well, I need to circulate. I'm energy. I'm positive energy. I need to circulate. The same way we all know negative energy likes to circulate. Misery loves company. Energy likes to move. Energy likes to circulate. Positive energy, paying it forward. Positive energy wants to move. Science. I keep trying to tell you about science and metaphysics and religion, all saying the same thing. Science. Energy is not created or destroyed. It's just transformed or moved or stored. It can be it can transition. It can be transformed, or it can be stored. That's energy. Energy in people is the same way. Positive energy likes to pay it forward. We like to oh man, we want to celebrate together. Man, let's have a party. Let's pass on this positive energy. Negative energy. Misery loves company. You know some Debbie Downers. You know some Donnie Doubters. They like to come to you with negative stuff all the time. You see them come and you're like, the negative energy, before you even get to them. You see them and the negative energy seeps into you somehow because you know what's coming. Energy moves through people. So you build a community based on people that pass on positive and productive energy, that encourage you, that challenge you. Find the energy to suit you. And together you'll be strong enough to withstand what's coming. If you build a lot of negative energy, only thing y'all can do is fight and combat. That's the only thing y'all be prepared for, is to fight. A lot of negative people are never prepared to build. I read that man has been given his ability to destroy what was in the mind of God that became detestable, and then build it the correct way once the mind is renewed. That's possible. That's possible. That's possible. I think there are natures in some of us that even like our initial attempts at building things, some of those can be successful too and beneficial. Like not everybody has a detestable, like not everybody has a negatively tuned mind in certain areas. So some of the things we build are actually general. Like some people are empathetic and compassionate coming up. So I don't think everybody has a distorted mind coming up. Everybody's not broken in the same way. That's the best way I can say it. Everybody's not broken in the same way. So we don't all seek to break things. Some people turn their breakage and their damage internally. So anything they do externally will try to be beneficial to compensate for the damage that they do to themselves. It's like, again, there's always a balancing, internal, external, left, right. There's always some kind of weird scale that's doing some kind of balancing. So the people like, everybody says, God, I'm not God. What am I saying? People always say, the happiest people that you see are typically the saddest. There's always some kind of balancing there. There's always some scales that are, well, they seem so happy, but they were actually incredibly sad. The more sad they were, the more happy they had to present to balance the energy off. There's an equilibrium that we seek psychologically. There's an equilibrium that we seek in our lives. Like to maintain, we'll say to maintain, I'm keeping it copacetic. I'm okay. We're always trying to keep an equilibrium. That's it seems to be the natural state. Symbolic of Jesus coming here in the first place. I should have finished that sentence. My bad. That shit sound like Game of Thrones. Yeah. So let me go one more. Let me do one more. We'll probably do therapy another day. Let me do James chapter 1, because that's another one for me. I like James chapter 1. Okay. My mouse will work. I can't stand this little flap. This right here, that's annoying. I'm not the hard designers. And we can't just store energy without having the energy to store it. Exactly. To keep the energy in and pressurize the plane, engines using fossil fuels are needed to heat the, yeah, all of it. All of it. All of the pieces matter. All of the pieces matter. Just like storing negative energy in ourselves. All of it. And it doesn't just stay there. Like all of the energy is doing something. Which is why, like, if you're storing like battery energy, you're storing energy. The energy depletes because it leaks out. So even if you're storing negative energy, what energy is in you, it leaks out, but it also is damaging, is doing damage to you physiologically. The same way the placebo effect can help you feel healed, or it will put on some positive effect, that negative energy, what they talk about it, what is that when you're stressed? Cortisol levels, and you start doing damage to your organs and things. Negative energy is doing something. You're storing it, but it's an active ingredient. And negative energy, positive, those are active ingredients. They're doing things, even when you're unaware. It's crazy. Can't store a new wine in the old wineskin either. That another thing. And when we talked about that marriage thing yesterday, that's why I was saying, like, we have a lot of old concepts of marriage, but people are moving in a modern way. Those are incongruent. They can't go together. We can't try to make new people go into old understandings of marriage. It doesn't make sense. Like even with that 11-year thing I talked about, if men are living 11 years longer, but half of marriages don't make it past 10 years, that's just the life that we've added on to men is already too much to exceed more than half of marriages. We have a problem here to think people are supposed to live the rest of their lives together. The math ain't mathing. That's why you can't put new in the old. The compositions don't mix well. We need to match things. We need to balance things out. We need to balance things out. The vessel will burst. Science and spirituality. Facts. It causes incongruence in mentality and psychological terms. In psychological terms, they call that cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. That means there's an expectation that does not match the reality, and it creates a feeling of consternation, of conflict, because there's an imbalance. When there's an imbalance, that's like an agitation. It's a movement. The more the dissonance, the more the movement. You know, when molecules move and they get excited when there's movement, do you know what happens the faster they're going? How we experience faster moving molecules? Do you know how we experience those? As heat. People get hot. The more dissonance they have, the more the things are in conflict inside of their head, the more hot they become. They become agitated. They get hot. They get hostile. So we're drawing some parallels between psychology, religion, all this stuff, science. All of this stuff is speaking to the same existence. And Billy, appreciate having you around. Definitely love having you in the input. Thank you for coming. Right, and that's where we get into the mental harm of the rabbit hole. Yeah, it's crazy. But all this stuff, the religion, the science, the more I studied, the more I saw the same stuff. What happens though is there's little whereas like in religion, like specifically Christianity, because there's a Jesus and he's here to get you into heaven. We take the heaven piece and dismiss all the rest of it, which I've kind of made parallels to science and psychology, like adequate, great in my opinion, like one-to-one and things that really make sense. But because of the Jesus and heaven piece, we'll throw everything out, which I think is wrong. Because of science and things like we don't understand the placebo effect. We don't even understand the mind that well. We don't understand genetics that well. We'll throw all of it out. And because of psychology, and we'll say something like, well, we don't really understand why people's behaviors and feelings and thoughts are all interconnected, and how we can, because there's like 3 levels of psychology, like cognitive, there's thinking, there's affective, which is feeling, and there's behavior, which is behavioral. So all 3 of those interplay with each other. One connects to the other, and they all change each other. They all influence each other. It's a trinity in your mind. All of that stuff is important. All of this stuff is so important to understand, because we can then have a greater appreciation of the other domains that are saying the same thing but differently. Don't make it your identity. Just make it something that I believe. And the less if you can, I say there's a flaw or it's incomplete, you can then adopt things from other disciplines that complement or fill those holes or fill those gaps. The same way if each one was a person, if psychology was a person, if religion was a person, if spirituality was a person, if science was a person, it's a community. And if they're always in conflict because of the differences, you're going to have conflict, you're going to have combat, you're going to have dysfunction. But if you can just say, this is where we agree at, this is where we align, let's build from there, you can build a community. And like the Bible says, a threefold cord is not easily broken. The more disciplines you can put together where they align, the stronger your base is, stronger your foundation is. The less that can come in and breach it, because you don't have these big gaps. No one thing is without a lot of flaw and gap. You have to put things together. You have to weave things together. The community. And you want the same thing ideologically. You don't want to stand on one principle from one discipline. It's going to be insufficient. There's no way around that. But because we feel so religious about certain ideologies, we fight. But there's no need to. There's no need to. Spirituality, Christian faith, it's got a lot going for it. The person that you've met on the internet is because of the teachings of Christ. Solely because of the person you met on the internet and had good interactions with, a lot of that is because of the teachings of Christ. If I had not come into the understanding for myself of a lot of this stuff and studied for myself and then applied it against my life and what I understood, you wouldn't have got this version of me. You would have got a version that was way more emotionally stunted. Way more. What you would have had me up here yelling and cussing at people and calling people names and all kinds of weird stuff. You would have got the same weird behavior from me that you get from a lot of people, because I would have been a people. I would have found an ideology to hide behind. I would have been a full Democrat. I would have been a full this. I would have been that thing and never been a human. That's the real importance of diversity of mind within a community, which is why I'm skeptical of ideologically founded community. Yeah. They all work together in oneness when the mind is not confused, from science to religion. Because there are things in all ideologies that are problematic or incomplete or flawed. And when you can't admit a flaw, if it was a person, we would call that hubris. We would call that arrogance. So in ideology, there's ideological arrogance. My way has no flaw and no incompleteness. The moment you do that, that's an arrogant stance. Even if it's based on a faith system. a belief system. I try to, because Jesus said not to, I try to even ideologically always be humble. Don't take on an arrogant, because the moment, if you are a Christian, the moment you take on an arrogant stance, even about Jesus himself, like Greg Bryan, I love it when he's in here. He's like, Jesus could take a joke. Because if he's the son of God, like everybody says, if he can't take a joke, we got a problem. Got to be able to take the criticism. If you're too arrogant, if you're always right, if you're unflawed, that's a problem. Because Jesus himself said, don't call me good. Our righteousness is as a filthy rag. Hey, what are we doing? There's a lot of true, useful, productive psychology and philosophy wrapped up in a lot of stuff. But you have to read for yourself to pull it out. So I'm going to read here, James. I'm going to skip a couple verses down, because this is going to speak more to, I will say, kind of how we need to interact with each other. These were letters that were sent to churches. So they were trying to tell people how to get along, how to live in community. So after the Gospels, and you get to the Pauline letters, almost all of those are exclusively telling people how to live in community. So that if you want to learn how to live in community, when you read those Pauline letters, almost everything, Paul, so instead of Christian, Christ, and then you put a suffix, Paul is the root word. And they put Pauline. So it's Paul is the word. Paul wrote these letters, the Apostle Paul, who used to kill Christians. He had a Jesus, him and a donkey and Jesus and blindness. There's a whole story there too. Read it for yourself. But I'm going to read some of this. You don't get into Paul's teachings. Some good stuff in there. There's some good stuff in there. Some good stuff in there. Now, the problem is people have kind of supplanted. They don't go into Jesus's teachings. Most people skip to Paul because of the way it's written. He was an educated Greek person. So his writings are very prosy. His writings are very literary. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So that's when I was talking earlier about you're going to encounter problems. If you have the right mindset when you come into problems, they can actually make you stronger. We talked about the HBLs. When you have those breaks in your leg, the legs heal. The legs heal, and they typically heal stronger. The legs heal and they heal stronger. If a person undergoes conflict or challenge and they come out of it, they typically undergo stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's what a lot of people say. There is a limit to that. The challenge and the harm cannot be to the point of trauma. So there are things that go unsaid in a lot of our cliches and platitudes. But any challenge that you undergo up to a point, shout out to Mr. He said to a point will actually make you stronger. Like lifting weights is doing damage to your muscles. And once you recover, you actually are stronger the next time. Your muscles have been built up through challenge. Thank you. Are there lots of people that mostly read Paul? Absolutely. There's a lot. I just rock with the example as they wrote of him and then went into the deeper rabbit hole and found a new world of my own. Nova Rain, is that a real question? Yes. Yep. Got you. Okay, cool. So, when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow, your patience, all of that stuff. Anything that you put to the test, anything that you work out, anything that's a muscle. And a lot of our things are muscles. And when I say muscle, I mean a habit. Any habit that you employ more, whether it's patience, whether it's compassion, it becomes easier over time. But you have to be challenged in it. It has to be a challenge. If it's easy for you to do, you can never grow in it. You don't get stronger by doing the things that are easy. Love, anything. If it's easy, you're not getting stronger by doing it. I don't get stronger by eating jelly beans. Well, actually, that's a lie. My habit of eating jelly beans, the more I do it, becomes stronger. So that it becomes such a habit that I don't even have to think about it. So it actually is still consistent. Anything you do becomes easier for you to do, even if the thing you're doing is wrong. Even wrong becomes easier to do. You grow in strength in wrongness. which is why some people, they say strong and wrong. You grow in strength and wrongness. So I had to catch myself. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. So it's important to remember that dualism. You can grow in the wrong direction. You can become strong in the wrong direction. You can put all your strength. There was an old Native American thing. They talked about there's a wolf on each shoulder, a good one and a bad one. Which one will you feed? Or it might be in your head. I can't remember this. It might be bears. It might be wolves. You know, Native Americans. Bears or wolves. You're feeding every decision you make in life. You're feeding one aspect of yourself. The more you feed that thing, the stronger it's going to have a hold over your life. Whatever that thing is. Arts versus science. If you spend more time on arts, that's going to take over your life. You spend more time on science, that's what's going to take over your life. You spend on religion, whatever you're feeding, that's what's going to get stronger in your life. That's just a truism. Let me see. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. But and we've already talked about asking and receiving. But when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver. Do not waffle. Shout out to Nova. Shout out to Yellow. For a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. So let me go read it in a different instruction. In a different verse. That was 6. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea driven in the wind and tossed. Such people, if they're waffling, should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything they do. And I always read it this way. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. But this is a very good interpretation of that. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world. They can't pick a lane. They can't choose between believing in God and believing in the world. So it makes them unstable because the values and the principles are typically opposite or oppositional. I heard either Bria or Rashawn mention that once, but I wasn't sure if it was Paul. Yeah, that was me. It was wolves. Gotcha. Cool. Believers who are poor have something to boast about, for God has honored them. And those who are rich should boast that God has humbled them. They will fade away like a little flower in the field. Let's go back and read that another one. Let the brother of low degree rejoice in that he is exalted, but the rich in that he is made low, because as the flower of the grass he shall pass away. And for me, just on a superficial reading, because in the body of Christ, in the body of believers, everybody was made equal. So anybody that was of low standing was elevated to be of equal status, and anybody that was high had to humble themselves to be of equal status. Like socialism, we're all together. We're in this together. So everybody's on the same level. So everybody can be like, man, I'm thankful because the thing that's going to be hardest for me to do, a low person to be elevated or a high person to humble themselves, God has made that possible. So you should be thankful that you got to do the thing that's going to be hardest societally in the world, hardest for you to do. Let me see. The hot sun rises in the grass with. I was supposed to be skipping. I forgot. I was supposed to be skipping in this one, but I didn't have it highlighted in the KJV. I had it highlighted in my phone. I'm slipping. Let me see. I had it highlighted in my phone. Let me double check. I forgot. That was on me. Matthew 7. Nope. We are in James 1. Boom. Got that. Supposed to be skipping to verse 19. Cool. I wasn't supposed to be reading this whole chapter. Verse 19. Understanding. James 1. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Now, again, that would be useful for this internet stuff too. Quick to listen. You want to get an understanding. You want to understand. You want to hear. Be patient and slow to speak. And again, slow to get angry. Would that be how y'all see me operate on the internet? Would that be how y'all see me operate when I'm having disagreements with people? Like, this is where I get my character from. Like, I pull I pulled the way I move out of this stuff. This became where I settled. All right, this is where I set my foundation on. This is how I set my temperature. The stuff I learned from the Bible. Because the other way did not work for me. The Bible says, lean not into your own understanding. My understanding didn't work for me. I was ready to kill myself or kill somebody else. It got me to that point. That's what my understanding could do. That's what my understanding got me, ready to kill. Suicidal, homicidal. Somebody, something sidal. Somebody had to go. It wasn't working for me. But when I adopted this stuff, I promise you, everything changed. I'm not saying magic, but I'm saying your perspective changes. And it wasn't easy and it wasn't quick. But once I understood it, I was like, okay. Always trying to fight every battle wasn't working for me. It just brought on more conflict. Because people that are ready to fight are always ready to fight. So every time I fought, they fought. Every time I swing, they swing. It's an endless battle. So at some point, like, okay, let me just sit back and listen. Let me start listening. And let me quit trying to, let me be slow to speak. Let me quit trying to always be right. Let me quit trying to always prove my point. Let me quit trying to always be understood. And let me be chill. Let me just chill. It ain't personal. Slow to angry. The thing that got me slow to anger is it's not personal. This person is having an event. This other person who's angry, they're having something going on in their life. It has nothing to do with me. I'm getting the manifestation of all their negative energy. So I don't take it personal. So I don't get so hot. I don't get hot anymore. I'm like, it ain't about me. It's never really about me. Because I don't comfort people anymore. Verse 22. And yes, I'm doing the thing I said about pastors where they're giving you what they want to give you. So again, it's important that people go and read for themselves. Now, I've mentioned this earlier too. Let me see, through verse 25. Boom. But don't just listen to God's word. Don't just listen to it. Don't just listen to a pastor. Don't just listen to a pastor. Don't just listen to me. You must do what it says. You must actually do what it says. Love God with all your heart and soul. Love your brother as you love yourself. You got to do a lot of loving. A lot of loving. You got to put a lot of love on the table. It's important. That's a commandment. God said, keep my commandments. Love requires a lot. There's a whole chapter, 1 Corinthians 13. I've done 2 lives on it, on love. It's really important. But don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you are only fooling yourselves if you're not doing what it says. If you're saying, I believe in it, I'm listening to the word. That's why I said it when I said pewish. They're pewish people. They go to church all the time and they sit in the pew and they do all the things and raise their hands and they cry, but they don't do any of the stuff. If they have the faith without any of the works, it's dead. They're fooling themselves. It's empty. That goes back to Matthew 7 where he said, I don't know you. I don't know you. For if you listen to the word and don't obey it, it is like glancing at your face in the mirror. What's up, Greg Bryant? Yeah, we're still going. Still in the and still into the the big brother of Jesus. So I'm probably not going to get to the therapy part, but I do have your comment. In God, patience comes with practice. Opportunities come up for practice. Praying, proving endurance. Proving endurance and building self. Temple. I should have looked at the big comment over here on the left instead of the little one. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Quantum, for all the wisdom you are sharing. Oh, it's so nice. But where was I? Can't just be a hearer. You must also be a doer. If the fruit is not there, judge them by their fruit. Listening and not doing is like glancing at your face in the mirror. You see yourself walk away and forget what you look like. That's crazy. You see yourself in the mirror and forget what you look like. If you claim to be religious, and we like that word, I would say spiritual. If you claim to believe in Jesus, even spiritual. So we had that whole thing with Conscious and Yellow, and I put up spiritual in that in the caption at the bottom because they were arguing. If you claim to be religious, spiritual too. If you claim to there was Conscious said something about makes me have a love for humanity, humanitarianism. If you claim to be any of that stuff, but don't control your tongue, if you cannot control your tongue, you are fooling yourself. And your religion, your spirituality, your belief, it's worthless. Because if no love, if no humanity follows through from what you believe in, that means it's only for you. It's a feel-good drug. It's copium. It's here to make you feel good. Your faith, your belief, your spirituality, your religion, that thing is just something that you're hiding behind for an identity's sake. It makes you feel good because you don't have to do the things for yourself. You don't have to do the work. There's a system. I can hide in it. I can just dissolve myself into it and feel all the feelings. I know somebody talked about feeling. I think it was Mr. He said, talked about the feelings. If you understand and embrace the love that's required, you're going to control your tongue because you don't want to harm anybody, because you wouldn't want anybody lashing their tongue at you. You wouldn't want it. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to be got. Nobody wants to be shot. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So at that point, your religion, your beliefs, your spirituality is worth nothing because you don't even care enough for people, which again is the second commandment if you're a believer in Jesus, to love your brother like you love yourself. It's worthless. Pure and genuine religion, spirituality, belief in the sight of God the Father means caring for orphans and widows in their distress. Anybody in their distress. Look at the Good Samaritan story. And refusing to let the world corrupt you. Not being like everybody else. If you act like, if you look like, if you move like, if you think like, if you talk like, if you're getting yourself shaped to fit in like, if you're like everybody else, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're just everybody else. Broad is the way, the gate, broad is the way to destruction. If you're like everybody else, that's the world. If you fit in perfectly, that's the world. And not everybody that stands out is right. That's not what I'm saying either. What I am saying, though, there should be something demonstrably different about you and the bulk of humanity. There should be something different. Should absolutely be something different. So those are the two chapters. There was the third one I was going to do a long time ago. I told Nova I was going to go over these chapters a long time ago, and I never did. Nova, this is also for you too. Because I told you a long time ago I was going to go over Matthew 7, James 1, and Ecclesiastes 12. I'm not even going to go over Ecclesiastes 12 because it's really just the last couple of verses of Ecclesiastes that also helped shape my belief. Because you can do all the studying and get all the books and do all the learnings and do all the other stuff. And you know what? At the end of it, like, it's all vanity. It just makes you feel good. It just makes you feel good. The whole of the matter is to love God, keep his commandments. Ecclesiastes 12. Now, the stuff is really simple, but it's hard to do. The simple part is there's a couple of commandments. Love God and love each other. And that's simple. Oh, wow. Now, but it's hard to do. It's complicated to pull off because you have to love unlikable people. You have to keep your tongue. You have to check your tongue because you want to say something. You want to say something sharp. You want to say something hurtful. You want to dig at them. You want to make a personal dig. You want to expose. You want to do a lot of crazy stuff that's going to hurt them personally or professionally. You want to do a lot of stuff that's pure harm. You want to cause chaos. You just want to fight. Now you got to temper that. If it's not tempered, you're probably not on the right path. If you're not tempering, if you're not trying. Everybody says they're a work in progress. Yeah, but I mean, if everybody's a work in progress, then there's no point in saying it because everybody's that. Are you working in progress? Not are you a work? Everybody's a work in progress. You'll never be the finished product because there's no finish line. The finished product is death. Who wants to be that? So are you working and making progress? Are you? Is it evident? Where's the fruit? Like, that stuff's important. That stuff's important. So that is my diatribe. That is my diatribe. I believe in God because of this stuff. I don't believe in the God as it is laid out in the Bible. I don't necessarily believe in Jesus or the way he's laid out in the Bible. But I believe for sure that this stuff works. I believe that a lot of us are telling people to do this stuff anyway. All the self-help, they're telling people to do this kind of stuff. The stuff's in the Bible. So people just grab stuff out and monetize it and sell it to you. But it's free. It's here. It's right there. But there's a lot of stuff that you have to learn to weed through. And I think that's part of the process. Even when Jesus talked, he kind of spoke in parables a lot. And everybody's like, why do you talk like this? And he's like, you have to put it behind something. There has to be a barrier to entry. Because if you hand everybody like medicine, they're probably like, I'm not taking this. I'm not taking this. You just hand somebody medicine, I'm not taking this. You have to hide the medicine in something else so that they're curious enough to want to take it for themselves. When I talked about somebody has to be broken versus somebody who's prideful. The prideful person, I'm not taking this. Ain't nobody ever helped me before. Why would you be trying to help me now? Man, forget this, man. It's probably poison. Or the broken person who's desperate. Like, man, I need something. Man, you give me this, I'll take it. Give it to me. Give it to me. Put it in my belly. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Pause. Put it in, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need help. I need something. I'm broken. I'm vulnerable. I'm wounded. I'm willing to forget my pride and tell you, I need help. I need it now. It's my money and I want it now. I need help. And when in that broken state, you can then accept what the person's trying to give you. Or then you'll be willing to sort through some things that are maybe hard to understand. You'll be willing to study on your own. You'll be willing to do a lot of different things that you weren't willing to do from a place of privilege and pride. There are lots of powerful lessons in there. Lots of them. I promise you, man, changed my life. And the person you know is simply and only because of that. That was a catalyst for change that kept me from not being here. Promise you. Dark place. Dark places, man. Dark places. Did not care. Like, I don't even say did not care. I was actively looking to cause the circumstances of my death. Actively looking. Self-destructive. Self-destructive. Like, actively self-destructive. Not like passively self-destructive, like not checking my eating. Actively self-destructive. Like, causing chaos. I was out. Man, stupid. Listen. But the lessons I learned when I read, I was like, oh, I never understood this the right way in the first place. No wonder I have such a problem with Christians and Christianity. Nobody's probably teaching this stuff the way I was never taught. I've been in church with a lot of people and wonder why they moved the way they did, because none of us understood the principles. Nobody understood that at the core of it, it was very simple. It wasn't a whole bunch of commandments. It wasn't even the 10 commandments. If you look at the 10 commandments, it's broken up into 2 5s. Love God by not violating God. Thou shalt not have any God before me. Don't create graven images. Don't do this. Don't do that. Those 5. Don't violate God. Love God with all your heart. And then the other 5 are love each other. Don't violate each other. Don't steal. Don't lie. Don't take your husband's wife. You love each other by not violating each other. Don't violate each other. Don't violate yourself. Don't violate each other. Don't violate God. That's it. That's real simple. Hard to do. Hard to do. Real simple. All the Old Testament was trying, hey man, y'all need to quit violating. Y'all violating. Y'all violators. Why are y'all so violators? Why are y'all such violators? Can't stop, won't stop. Bad boy. All the Old Testament. New Testament, like, okay, man, we got to put a stop to this. They won't stop violating. Here, man, they don't keep violating, but listen, if they violate, at least they can come to you and get that wiped off. Okay, cool. I'm done. Okay, cool. Now they got to believe. Now they got to believe on you and get their life right. But you know they get their life right by acting better. By quit violating. That's the proof. That's the fruit. Quit violating. And then if you really have a compassion and a heart for people, if you really have a love for people, not only will you quit violating from your place of humility and understanding, you'll then try to repair the damage that you created and try to help repair some of the damage that other people created. That's what love will make you want to do without anybody else telling you. Let's put it a different way. Have you ever seen a child in your family crying? Who didn't want to go to the child to see if they could comfort the child? Everybody wants to go and see what's wrong with the child and then try to fix it. And then even try to entertain them if they can. That's the nature of people. We want to stop people from crying and to make them happy. That's the natural state. Unless we're so bogged down with life, like, I don't have time for this right now. Let them cry, blah, blah, blah. That's what happens. Life creates such dissonance in us that we don't care about each other anymore. That's what you have to combat. That's why I said either A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways because either they're loyal to God or to the world. The world will make you not have time to care about other people, not have energy to care about other people. God requires it. No matter how tired you are, I got to love this person. I got to care for this person. I got to find a way. I got to step away enough from the world that I have enough room and capacity to love. Those are some of the requirements. It also reminds me of what Risa Neal said the other day. Change behavior is what matters. Absolutely. Because there's no fruit without change behavior. If Monday you're a violator, you apologize, and on Tuesday you're a violator, what did the apology matter? For Monday you're a violator, you say you become a Christian, and on Tuesday you're a violator, what is the point? Well, that's kind of what I said, though. I get you. I mean, that's kind of what I said. The Old Testament, don't violate. The New Testament is they're going to violate. They're going to violate. So we got to do something to fix that. But they have to come to you and believe, and then the belief will cause you to do better. The belief and the love will cause you to do better. So, I mean, I said what you said differently. Yes, we do certainly want to do that. Absolutely. We want to make each other happy. If you're operating in a place that's not in an emotional or mental lack, you want people around you to be happy because we like positive energy in circulation. We love to have positive energy around us. We love it. We love it. It feels good. Nice. It's cool. Yeah, you're good. Same, but different. Stop. So we want to have positive energy. Typically, when we want negative energy, it's because we got bored. Yeah, it's because we got bored. We get bored sometimes. That's that equilibrium. And that's something we got to contend with. We'll get so used to like love. If love becomes the baseline, every now and then you're going to want something different because life is change. Life is movement. Energy has to move. So there's going to be something. So if life doesn't drag you down so that you can pull yourself back up, then you're going to drag you down. So people are so bored. People are so bored with life because we've made life so peaceable. We've made life so peaceable and passable. We have to create the friction. Like we talked earlier about the storms. Most people don't have storms. Most people have so many protections. There are no storms of life that really shake them. So we create those because life wants equilibrium. Life wants to balance things out. And if we've made it so that the world doesn't balance things out, we're going to do it. We'll create some chaos. But I really appreciate y'all hanging out for all of this. My long 3-hour plus rant on why, again, this stuff changed my life, saved my life, may have saved others' life. I really believe in it. The principles that I've espoused, I believe in. I believe in it so toughly that you've probably seen the way I operate in some of the things that I've said, why they resonate with me, or why I resonate with you. There's something in there. There's something there. It's meaningful. It's life-changing. It would be world-changing if people would adopt the stuff that I'm talking about. If the stuff I talked about today, if people adopted that, we wouldn't have the same world we have. But like I said, it's amazingly simple to say. It's really difficult to do. It's really difficult to set yourself aside and your ego. Ego is big. Ego is so big. Your pride. Send your pride aside. It's so big. Like OG Patrice made the joke, even when I asked people what's something that they're prideful about, and I was like, see, nobody can put anything in the chat. She was like, our pride is so big, we can't even talk about our pride. It was so funny, but it was kind of true. Maybe nobody had the time. Maybe everybody was working, but nobody was going to admit their vulnerability. I think somebody did right behind that. It might have been a name. But man, whew, yeah, dry mouth, been yapping too long. So I'm not going to get into the therapy part right now. I am going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I will be back on Thursday, and I want to do the TikTok tea sipping. I want like the equilibrium I just talked about. I want some mess. Cause I've been really good. I've been really good. Even when I was in contention earlier in the week, I was good. I promise y'all I was good. I need a little bit of mess. I found some, but I'm going to share it with y'all, but I'm going to balance it out. Equilibrium. There's going to be some mess. There's going to be some mockery, but I'm going to bring a lesson in the middle there. That's just how I operate. I try to intentionally create the balance so that life doesn't have to create it for me. Are there environmental factors that make it easier for certain groups to do this or not? I don't know. I think everybody has the same lot in life when it comes to this. Now, Matthew 7 and James 1. Matthew 7 and James 1, but I've cited a lot of verses without citing exactly where they are. I've paraphrased a lot of verses without citing them specifically because I don't know chapter and verse. I never memorized chapter and verse. I always remember the principle. So Matthew 25 might have got mentioned, but I wouldn't have called it out by Matthew 25. I've said a lot of different verses. Are there environmental factors? I say, and this is where my understanding of this, Nova, and there's only a few people here good, so this might ruffle some feathers. What I've learned to understand is that everybody has a struggle. This is when you hear me talk about the black-white thing, why I sometimes come off compassionate, like especially the white men, is because everybody has a struggle. Like everybody's bound on an end of the struggle. There's a verse in Revelation that talks about to make a man a slave, you become bound. You've become bound to becoming the master. So you enslave yourself with the same bonds that you enslave another man with. So even how black people have been, like you say there's an oppression, and we talked about energy, it takes energy to oppress. So the energy with which you oppress another people is opportunity cost from the energy you could have used to progress yourself. So in any racial strife that has happened in this country, even though environmental factors impact all of us differently, we all have a level of oppression. Because even to oppress, you are repressed yourself because you're expending energy oppressing somebody else instead of progressing yourself. There's an opportunity cost there. As amazing as America is now, imagine if instead of opposition to black people, brown people, Irish, Italians, if we were inspective, found the best of every group, like you said, diversity of thought, and used those to truly advance this country to its highest possibility. What would that country look like? If every quality, like intelligent person was put to intelligent uses, if every physical person was put to physical uses, if everybody was pushed towards their highest potentiality, like Bree's version of Christianity, if everybody's potentiality was pushed instead of held down, what would this country look like? What would the world look like? So environmental factors may hit people differently, but everybody's pressure is just like energy is transformed at the bottom. I know I just blanked out. The pressure is different at the top than it is at the bottom, but it's still pressure. And there's also less air up there. You feel me? Like there's also less air up there. The pressure is different. The atmospheric pressure at a higher elevation is different, but there's also less air. And if you go deep enough in the sea, there's way more pressure. I mean, so pressure is relative and air is relative. So, I mean, it really, which one do you want? Do you want to asphyxiate at the top of a mountain? Do you want to be crushed by a crowd that are jockeying for position in a competitive environment at the bottom? Or do you want to be in a trench being crushed by the crushing weight of an ocean of poverty, pain, oppression? Where do you want to be? Which reality is worse? Trying to survive and which reality is better? They're just all different. You're trying to keep air at the highest elevation. It's a beautiful view at the top, but you're dying. You can't breathe. And it's cold. It's cold and lonely. You can't have a group of people up there. And then where everybody's at, everybody's jockeying for position. Everybody's fighting resources, stealing. Or you're under the oppressive weight of an ocean, and you're getting crushed. But stuff starts to glow down there. You start to find pretty things down there too. That's life is amazing in that way. Yeah. So for me, the pressure is just relative. So maybe that's it. The environmental factors change the way that pressure shows up in your life. How about that? The environmental factors change the way that pressures show up in your life. Much like yesterday when I talked about people reframe things like anxiety and depression. Everybody feels anxiety. Everybody feels depression, but it's going to show up differently. For the slave master, it might be a revolt. For the slave, it might be eternal enslavement. Somebody taking my child. For the person who's neither the slave or the enslaver, but just witnesses it, it may be the fear that maybe that'll turn on you. All of it's pressure. God, maybe he's trying to enslave me next. That's pressure. I got to watch him. Now I got to watch him. He's enslaving these people. Maybe they try to enslave me. That's a pressure. And I'm a bystander. Still pressure. There's no place to escape pressure. It's just which pressure can you survive? Which pressure can you cope with? Which pressure can you live with? All of it's pressure. But your environment is going to shape what that pressure looks like for you. What its effects are. But that concludes my TED Talk. I want to, I don't know this young lady, but again, she does a lot of streams. I've been seeing her pop up in my feed a lot more lately. And I had no idea she had such a big crush on me. So we get out of here, I'm just going to, shout out to Brittany Venti for all the content. I love how she flamed Just Pearly. So before we get out of here, man, I caught her stream and she was talking about dating. I'm just going to throw that back up in here one more time.
Can you do a Venti men's selection flowchart? Yeah, sure, why not? Okay. I'll give you guys my flowchart for dating, for selecting men. Are they Sean? If yes, then date. If no, then don't date. Very simple chart. There you go.
Looks simple to me.
I hope that suffices.
I don't care what your Alpha Male Podcast folks told you.
That certainly is one big self-assured ninja.
Well, Oshaw is a dime.
I'm looking for a dime. That's top of the line.
Yeah, but, gotta love being a big self-assured ninja. I am getting ready to jump on out of here with my ninja feet. Check on a few things. I will holler at you guys Thursday. I will see y'all Thursday. And I think everybody needs to go and get a shot. Everybody needs to go and get a shot today. So go and find yourself some shots. Do some shots. And I'll see you Thursday.
Shots round the table, celebrations for my label. These are my four brothers, ain't no room for no haters, no. I think I need a shot, though. Yeah, I really need a shot, though.